Chapter 876. Apart from Su Yuantek and Shun Shi, there was no one else in the corridor of the private ward. Shun Shi's eyes were bloodshot, and she felt extremely helpless. She grabbed Su Yuantek's arm and said, "It's true that you doesn't know how to make medicine and often makes mistakes, but isn't he your son? Our family doesn't lack money or power. Nothing will happen to our son even if he misbehaves. What's wrong with protecting him for a lifetime? Yuanza, for so many years other than my son, I've never asked you for anything else." Shinshi. Su Yuantek's eyes were gloomy. The Su family is rich and powerful, but all of this isn't for Su Yu to squander. He enjoys the convenience brought by the Su family, so he has to bear the responsibility of the Su family's descendants. He's a man, not a baby. Su Yuantek, do you really have to be so cruel? How many times have you done this? You want to kill my son every time. He's still my son. Do you think I'm happy? After Su Yuantek finished speaking, he lifted his feet and left, disappearing at the end of the corridor. Shunshi felt as if she had been hollowed out. She leaned against the wall and moved step by step, her nails digging into the wall. It was her son who was injured. It was just a small matter. Who was the one who told Su Yuantek about it? Who was the one who did it? Shunshi's eyes were filled with tears, but her hatred was strong. As soon as she left the hospital, she contacted Su Yu's friend. After asking around, her blood seemed to be flowing rapidly in her body. She was full of resentment. It was Jing Yunzhao. It was her again. At this time, Jing Yunzhao took advantage of the fact that it was still early to go out and meet the person in charge of the pharmaceutical factory that Li Xiaoyun had introduced. Her eyelids suddenly jumped, and she had an ominous feeling. However, this feeling was not unfamiliar to her. After all, she had offended many people. What will come will come. Different situations call for different measures. It was useless to be nervous and worried. The pharmaceutical factory was hers, so she would naturally choose the person in charge. Li Xiaoyun, Pak Yuan, and even Xiang Jin had introduced a few people to her. She looked through the information carefully a few times, and finally chose one of the people Li Xiaoyun had provided. This person's name was Qin Shui. He was about 45 years old and had worked in other pharmaceutical companies before. He was very capable and had stayed in the army before. He was a determined person and had a good personality. The other positions in Yunling Pharmaceuticals had already been confirmed from the list provided by Li Xiaoyun. However, Qin Shui was the one who gave the order directly, so she had to meet him personally. As for the other positions, she would have to wait until the pharmaceutical factory was on the right track to understand them all at once. After all, she did not have much time. The meeting place was near the school to accommodate her. In an ordinary restaurant nearby, a middle-aged man had been waiting for a long time. He was dressed formally and looked a little nervous. From time to time, he would look outside. He also did not understand why the boss that Li Xiaoyun had mentioned was in a university. Could it be that he was a professor in a medical department? Jing Yunzhao entered the restaurant and glanced around. Finally, she sat down in front of the middle-aged man. She had seen his photo before, so of course she could recognize him. However, Qin Shui was stunned for a moment. He said politely, "Student, I'm sorry. This seat is already taken. I know. I'm the person you're waiting for." Jing Yunzhao said as she poured herself a cup of tea. Qin Shui's mouth twitched. Were all girls these days so weird? "Student, uncle has some business to attend to. Can I trouble you to change seats?" Qin Shui said politely. "Hello, Uncle Qin. I didn't introduce myself earlier, but it's not too late now. My name is Jing Yunzhao. If nothing goes wrong, I'll be your future boss. If that's the case, is there a problem with me sitting here?" Jing Yunzhao handed over her student ID. Her name was written clearly on it. Although Qin Shui did not know her well, he still knew her name. Chapter 877. Seeing the name on the student ID card, Qin Shui's old face twitched fiercely. He felt a buzzing sound in his head, as if he had received quite a bit of shock. "You're the boss of Yunling Pharmaceuticals?" Qin Shui couldn't help but pinch himself and ask in disbelief. Although he knew that his boss was a woman, he didn't think too much about it. He only thought that she was around 40 years old. After all, Yunling Pharmaceuticals was so big and was supported by the military. A boss with such courage should have at least a few decades of experience. He didn't expect her to be a student. Qin Shui's eyes flashed with suspicion, as if he was expecting Jing Yunzhao to shake his head and deny it. However, the reality was the opposite. Jing Yunzhao nodded without hesitation. That's right. You are a student of a university? How old are you this year? Qin Shui couldn't help but ask. The moment he said this, he felt a little weird. I'm 18. Jing Yunzhao still went along with it and replied. Qin Shui nodded and felt a little awkward. He seemed to understand why young Master Li wanted him. Young Master Li needed someone who was loyal and within his control. He had served in the military and later became the vice president of another pharmaceutical company. However, because he found that there were some problems with the production line of the company, he had a conflict with the person in charge and was almost sent to prison. At that time, young Master Li gave him the information of Yunling Pharmaceuticals. Rather than being the general manager of Yunling Pharmaceuticals, it was more like selling his body. He would work for Yunling Pharmaceuticals for the rest of his life. If he did anything to betray the company, young Master Li would punish him. He didn't deny his crime. If he didn't have this opportunity, he would have to spend the rest of his life in prison. He had no choice but to be grateful. Letting out a sigh, Qin Shui tried his best to make himself look more amiable. CEO Jing, you should have seen my resume, right? I wonder, what do you think of it? He was a middle-aged man in his 40s. At this age, he was old enough to be Jing Yunzhao's father. He wasn't mentally prepared for this, so it would be strange if he didn't feel awkward. I've seen it. I heard that you used a sum of money to buy equipment in your previous company and threatened the director of the pharmaceutical factory. In the end, the quality of the medicine produced wasn't up to standard. I was framed by someone. I had already discovered that there was a problem with the equipment and wanted to abandon it, but at that time, Qin Shui's face turned red as he hurriedly prepared to explain. Jing Yunzhao raised his hand and said, You don't have to explain. I'm just telling you a story. You are trustworthy because I don't think a person who spends more than half of his family fortune on charity will take other people's lives as a joke. The information provided by Li Xiaoyun was very comprehensive. For more than 20 years after Qin Shui graduated from university, he would regularly donate a sum of money to the orphanage every year. The source of the money was clean. Not only that, later on, when he had more money, he supported many poor students. During his work, he would go to some poor places to investigate when he had free time and help to arrange donations. However, his own expenses over the years were pitifully small. Qin Shui had no parents. His wife was a very virtuous woman. His daughter had been influenced since she was young to do good deeds with her father. His family's life was only at the standard of an ordinary person. It was completely inconsistent with his position as the vice president for many years. His net worth was completely transparent in front of him. He was respectable and lamentable. Of course, although he was kind, he was serious and responsible in his work. He also separated public and private matters. Although he helped many people, he also stopped within his own ability. He had strong self-restraint. During his work in his previous company, he helped the company achieve good results. It was a pity that he was abandoned in the end. Chapter 878. She was running a pharmaceutical company. Although she wanted to make money and profit, there were some bottom lines that could not be touched. Although there were many people who were more ambitious and capable than Qin Shui, they were more dangerous. Therefore, in general, she was very satisfied with Qin Shui. President Jing, thank you for your trust. At this time, Qin Shui also breathed a sigh of relief and said, The pharmaceutical factory will be able to operate in 2 days. Young Master Li has also helped you to recruit the workers and company personnel, but we can't produce the douching ointment here. Jing Yunzhao had already prepared a contract and several prescriptions. The contract was a confidentiality agreement. Since these prescriptions were to be handed over to Qin Shui, some things naturally had to be signed. These drugs to be produced have already been approved. You can be responsible for them. However, I don't want any problems to occur with these drugs. So, Uncle Qin, you have to be careful. Jing Yunzhao said. The medicine they were going to produce was commonly used by the general public. The side effects were small, and the effects were obvious. However, in order to promote Yunling's reputation, there was also a new type of painkiller here. She believed that once this medicine was released, it would definitely cause a huge reaction. Originally, the military wanted to get involved with this painkiller, but they were rejected by Jing Yunzhao. After all, the military had already taken a huge advantage of the douching cream. If even the painkiller was snatched away, then her pharmaceutical factory would suffer too big of a loss. Therefore, in the end, it was decided that the military would buy a certain amount of painkillers from the pharmaceutical factory every year at a favorable price. Although it was simple to say, in fact, this amount of money was even enough for the pharmaceutical factory to make a lot of money every year. Qin Shui couldn't help but be surprised. He seemed to have underestimated the little girl in front of him. Although she was young, she spoke clearly. Facing such a large-scale company, she didn't feel nervous at all. Her whole body exuded the pressure of a superior, making people unable to help but follow her pace. Compared to before, although it was only a short time, Qin Shui felt a sense of respect for Jing Yunzhao. He thought that from now on, he would have to work for others and have no choice but to live a life of desperation. But now it seemed that it was completely different from what he had originally thought. Immediately, he chatted a lot with Jing Yunzhao, but the closer the communication, the more amazing he found Jing Yunzhao. She knew a lot, especially in the pharmaceutical company. It was very obvious that she had put a lot of effort into it. It was very rare to be so outstanding at such a young age. At first sight, he thought that the person he was going to work for was a puppet boss, but now it seemed that was not the case at all. The two of them talked about the development of the company for a few hours, and the sky outside was getting darker and darker. Jing Yunzhao couldn't help but think back to the time when he first established the Jade Spirit Wine, and he couldn't help but sigh with emotion. By the time Jing Yunzhao returned to the dormitory, it was already 9 o'clock in the evening. Seeing that Jing Yunzhao was in one piece, Hua Tianxian and the others immediately heaved a sigh of relief and went up to greet him. Hua Tianxian rolled his eyes and said, "You didn't pick up when we called you. We thought that you were kidnapped by the group of people during the day." Jing Yunzhao took out her phone and looked at it. There were more than 10 missed calls, but because she was talking business with Qin Shui at that time, she put her phone on silent. "Did they come to make trouble for you?" Jing Yunzhao asked immediately. Suddenly, the murderous aura was thick. What she hated and couldn't tolerate the most was when others touched the people around her. "No." What Tianxian immediately said, and then said, "I heard that Suyu was sent abroad. I'm afraid that he will only be back in 1 or 2 months. I heard that his father personally sent him away. I'm worried that those people will blame you for Suyu being sent away, so I'm so worried." Chapter 879. After Hua Tianxian said that, Jing Yunzhao calmed down. "However, I'm afraid I'm just worrying for nothing. How can there be so much loyalty in this industry?" Hua Tianxian laughed again with a hint of self-mockery. She was similar to Suyu. When there was nothing going on, she had a lot of friends around her. Once something happened, everyone disappeared. Suyu was personally escorted by his father. As long as those so-called friends weren't stupid, they wouldn't come looking for trouble. After all, only a fool would do something that was strenuous and not worth it. Jing Yunzhao patted her shoulder. "That's because you didn't meet anyone who was compatible with you in the past. If it's now, Xingyue, Bao, and I will help you if you need anything." Hua Tianxian pursed her lips and smiled. She raised her head. "When did you become so mushy?" "Yunzhao has always been like this. This is called cold on the outside but warm on the inside," Ren Xingyue said as she tapped on the keyboard. "Thank you for the compliment." Jing Yunzhao chuckled. Heidi immediately pounced over. "Heidi is too mean. In comparison, Bao and I treat him the best. We give him food, play with him, and even teach him how to speak. But after so long, he's still the closest to you." Hua Tianxian looked angry, but her eyes were shining with envy. Jing Yunzhao secretly laughed. Every night, she would pretend to sleep under the blanket, but in reality, she would play with Heidi in the space. Naturally, their relationship was different. By the way, when I was looking at the entertainment news, I found out that Palace of Eunuch will start filming today. Is your friend acting in this drama? Hua Tianxian asked again. Ever since Jing Yunzhao suddenly became obsessed with chasing stars, she began to pay attention to him in private. She also wanted to know what kind of girl could make a cold person like Jing Yunzhao become so enthusiastic. According to Jing Yunzhao's description, she looked up several dramas that were about to be filmed. Only the big production's Palace of Eunuch fit the bill. Filming has started? Jing Yunzhao's eyes lit up. Hua Tianxian pursed her lips, feeling a little jealous. Jing Yunzhao thanked her and immediately turned on the computer to check. It was estimated that it would take at least 4 to 5 months to complete filming. In addition to the post-production, it would take about a year for it to be released. However, Xiao Haiqing had previously played many small roles. Even though she didn't have many scenes, she was still able to show her face. Now that she had gotten the help of Ling Lin's supermanager, she believed that she would be able to gain some fame before the movie was released. Jing Yunzhao opened her blog and found that her number of fans had skyrocketed ever since she started posting some beauty recipes. Immediately, he posted a congratulatory message on Xiao Haiqing's TV series, and many people commented on it. After patiently replying to them one by one, he went asleep. Hua Tianxian looked at her serious face and restrained her temper. She also went up to have a look. Looking at the photos of Xiao Haiqing, she felt like making friends with her. She envied this girl, but she wasn't jealous. In the past, she felt that it was good to have friends who could go out drinking, singing, and having fun. However, now that she saw Jing Yunzhao, her thoughts slowly changed. She began to look forward to having more and more people like Jing Yunzhao, Ren Xingyue, and Yao Baobao around her. Jing Yunzhao was like a mirror, making people feel as if they were looking at something they lacked. However, it was no wonder that so many people hated her. Hua Tianxian muttered in her heart and smiled. She also followed the blogs of Xiao Haiqing and Jing Yunzhao, their #1 fans. Her expression was a little awkward. After a while, she pretended not to know anything and washed up to rest. Chapter 880. Without Suyu, the rich young masters who had been taught a lesson by Jing Yunzhao did not appear. However, the ignorant women around Suyu were unrepentant. Although the campus was big, it was a narrow road for enemies. Jing Yunzhao would bump into one of them from time to time. Seeing how they were competing with each other, she could not help but feel speechless. Each and every one of them had big boobs but no brains. What a waste of getting into such a good school and having such beautiful faces. Jing Yunzhao, we haven't done anything to you yet. If you dare to make a move, then no one will be able to protect you. Early in the morning, just as Jing Yunzhao was passing by the tree-lined path, her path was blocked by 2 women. Jing Yunzhao really couldn't understand how these women's brains worked. In terms of martial prowess, they couldn't beat her at all, yet they still insisted on mocking her. Could it be that they thought that a few simple sentences would make her vomit blood? Besides, even if she took the initiative to hit someone, with Professor Mo around, she would not get a demerit or be expelled. The only person who could make her leave was herself. These people were so stupid that they were beyond redemption. Get lost. Jing Yunzhao stared at the 2 peacocks in front of her and said coldly, "I'm recording right now. If you dare to make a move." The other party held onto the phone and took a few steps back before continuing, "You better know your place. We're just here to chat with you." Jing Yunzhao, a wild brat like you shouldn't have any ideas about young Master Yu. When young Master Yu comes back, you better take the initiative to apologize. Otherwise, you'll be annoyed. Jing Yunzhao sneered. Annoyed? She was not the one who was annoyed, right? Jing Yunzhao sighed and walked over. She reached out and snatched the phone. She squeezed hard and the screen immediately shattered. Stupid. When the 2 saw it, their eyes widened in shock. Before they could say anything, Jing Yunzhao spoke up. "If you guys continue to cause trouble like this, the next thing that will break won't be your phone, but your bones. Don't bother me." After she finished speaking, Jing Yunzhao threw the phone on the ground, shattering it into pieces before leaving. Why couldn't these lost lambs figure it out? If you like money, can't you think of ways to earn it? Why did they have to rely on a man like Suyu? Why didn't they think about what kind of life they would have without Suyu in a few years? But perhaps this wasn't the case when they first entered a university. The students who were able to come here were all outstanding students. However, in the eyes of some people, university was their ultimate goal. After entering, they would just be eating and waiting for death. In the eyes of others, university was just the beginning. Jing Yunzhao. Jing Yunzhao had just turned a corner and was about to head upstairs when a voice called out from behind her. She turned around and saw Han Nan looking at her with a fervent expression. Jing Yunzhao nodded politely and opened up a path for him. I just saw you and those two senior sisters. Are you all right? Han Nan asked worriedly. Didn't you see it? I'm not the one in trouble, Jing Yunzhao said. You're right. Han Nan laughed dryly as he pulled out another set of breakfast from his bag. I bought an extra set. Have you eaten yet? If not, thank you, but it's okay. Jing Yunzhao still maintained her polite attitude. Han Nan was a little disappointed, but he seemed to have anticipated Jing Yunzhao's reaction. He lowered his head and pulled out a long box from his pocket. This is for you. After he finished speaking, he slipped away like a wisp of smoke. Jing Yunzhao was stunned for a moment. She didn't pick up the box, and it directly fell to the ground. However, with so many people coming and going, it really wasn't appropriate. Only then did she frown and pick it up. The box had already been opened, and inside was an exquisite fountain pen. Chapter 881. The pen that Han Nan gave her wasn't that expensive, but it was very elegant. However, there was no reason for her to accept such a strange gift. She sighed and went upstairs. However, when she got back to class, she realized that Han Nan wasn't there. Jing Yunzhao had to go to Professor Mo's place, so she left the pen in Han Nan's drawer. Fortunately, she arrived early and there was no one else in class. Otherwise, it would be hard to avoid misunderstandings. By the time Jing Yunzhao returned from Professor Mo's place, everyone in class was already there. Jing Yunzhao was relieved to see the black box on Han Nan's desk. Jing here you go. Hua Tianxian handed him a bottle of water between classes. Her attitude was a little strange. What's up? Jing Yunzhao took the bottle, opened it, and drank 2 mouthfuls before putting it down. How about going to Xiao Haiqing's film set this weekend to visit her? Hua Tianxian coughed dryly. Her expression was a little stiff. Jing Yunzhao was stunned for a moment. Then, she noticed that Hua Tianxian's gaze was a little absent-minded, and she seemed a little embarrassed. She couldn't help but laugh. Okay, but remember to bring some gifts. It doesn't have to be too expensive, just ordinary ones will do. She wanted to go too, but Xiao Haiqing was just a newcomer. If she rashly brought a friend along, it might cause some dissatisfaction. It would be more polite to bring a gift. It was only because she was familiar with Hua Tianxian that she said these words. If it had been someone else, she would have directly rejected them. Hua Tianxian raised her head. It's just a gift. It's nothing. She wanted to see if Xiao Haiqing had 3 heads and 6 arms to be able to capture Jing Yunzhao's heart. Hua Tianxian had a straightforward personality. Jing Yunzhao felt that she and Haiqing would get along well. At this moment, Jing Yunzhao responded. Hua Tianxian looked very happy, but she deliberately restrained herself, as if she was afraid that others would belittle her pride. Yao Baobao and Ren Xingyue were also curious and wanted to tag along. However, Hua Tianxian knew that this was their first time visiting the set, and they didn't know Xiao Haiqing at all, so it wouldn't be good if too many people tagged along. Therefore, she directly refused and promised that she would explore the place first before deciding on it next time. Seeing Yao Baobao's eager expression, Jing Yunzhao and Ren Xingyue promised to help her get the signature of the big shot in the crew. Only then did they give up. There were still a few days before the weekend, and Baby Yao could not help but mutter a few times every day. There were no classes on Friday afternoon. To avoid being nagged by Yao Baobao, Jing Yunzhao decided to go to Elder Su's place for the night. However, on the way there, he received a call from Zhou Meijun. Jing Yunzhao, I'm right behind you. Come and meet me. Zhou Meijun's roaring voice came from the phone. Jing Yunzhao sat in the taxi. He turned his head and saw that there was indeed a car following closely behind. However, because the road was crowded, he didn't notice that the car was following them. I'm not free. Jing Yunzhao did not want to waste time at all. You don't want to meet me? Then I'll get someone to drive over right now. Zhou Meijun's voice hardened. I just want to meet you. It's not a loss to you. Do you agree or not? Jing Yunzhao frowned. Are you crazy? Zhou Meijun, enough is enough. Otherwise, I don't mind ruining your reputation immediately. What do you mean? Do you want me to send you the photos of you with a few men? Jing Yunzhao said coldly. Those things had been taken a long time ago. However, because Zhou Meijun was fired, the value of these photos was not great. At most, it would only make the Zhou family hate her. Moreover, according to Ren Xingyue, Father Zhou was very disappointed. Therefore, it didn't matter whether these photos were released or not. Chapter 882. As soon as Jing Yunzhao threatened her, Zhou Meijun's voice immediately sharpened. Did you stalk me? If you don't want people to know, don't do it in the first place. Miss Zhou, get out of this road immediately. Otherwise, your stepfather will see these things immediately. I'll ask Xingyue for his number. Do you understand? Jing Yunzhao said again. The other end of the phone suddenly fell silent. Jing Yunzhao glanced at it and continued to let the driver drive at a constant speed. Jing Yunzhao, if you release the photos, I'll immediately let people gang up on Ren Xingyue. The Zhou family has always had me or her. If you want me to be unlucky, then she has to be with you. Unless you follow her 24 hours a day, and unless you kill me, she'll be finished one day. You can do whatever you want. Either you meet me now and give me the photos, or you let her accompany me. Anyway, I'm not afraid of wearing shoes. Zhou Meijun said as expected. Jing Yunzhao rubbed his temples and was extremely irritated. This was one of the reasons why he didn't directly take out the photos. If a person like Zhou Meijun still had a goal to strive for, she would maintain her rationality. However, once she lost everything, she would completely turn into a lunatic. Unless he killed her, but Zhou Meijun was a living person. She usually had friends or family around her. How could she do that? Okay, let's meet. You tell me the location. A trace of killing intent flashed in Jing Yunzhao's eyes. Zhou Meijun seemed to be relieved and immediately said, "Get in my car." A trace of suspicion flashed in Jing Yunzhao's heart. Zhou Meijun had no reason to see him, especially before she knew about the existence of the photos. Keeping this trace of suspicion, Jing Yunzhao directly stopped the taxi and turned to the private car behind. In the car, besides Zhou Meijun and the man sitting in the driver's seat, Tao Gu was also in the car. However, Tao Gu was lying in the back at this time. She should have fainted directly. Thinking quickly, Jing Yunzhao suddenly snorted coldly. So you want to frame me? But I want to know your courage. Are you going to frame me to commit a crime and knock someone out or kill someone? Zhou Meijun's hands trembled. Her face was pale, and she looked very nervous. Jing Yunzhao had seen the man in the photo before. He was not very old, about 28 or 29 years old. He was a gangster. Shut up. Zhou Meijun's voice trembled. She stretched out her hand and said, "Give me your phone." Jing Yunzhao did not resist and directly handed the phone over. There were indeed photos saved in the phone, but that was only a backup. It did not matter if he gave it away. Zhou Meijun took the phone, but she didn't hold it at all. It fell directly on the car seat. She quickly picked it up, found the photos in a hurry, and deleted them one by one. It was such a simple thing, but it took her nearly 10 minutes. Jing Yunzhao seemed to be able to see the tears in her eyes. "I'm returning it to you." Zhou Meijun threw the phone back and said, "Don't blame me. You asked for it. I can't do anything about it." "Huh?" Jing Yunzhao sneered. There was no other way? Could it be that she was forced? However, after thinking about it, Jing Yunzhao's eyes flashed. "Ever since I met you, I haven't encountered a single good thing. Jing Yunzhao, it wasn't easy for me to get into a university. It wasn't easy for me to make my stepfather feel proud of me. Because of you, I lost everything. And her, Tao Gu. If she hadn't tried to drive a wedge between us, I wouldn't have ended up like this." Zhou Meijun said a few more words in a trembling voice. Suddenly, she fell silent. Jing Yunzhao scanned the surroundings and his eyes grew colder. When Zhou Meijun was speaking, her hand was always on her right. It seemed that she was holding something. Both of them were wearing gloves. In addition, there was a transparent bag on the passenger seat. There was something inside, but it looked very familiar. Chapter 883. Jing Yunzhao recalled the events of the past few days and became angrier and angrier. The bag contained everything she had touched, including the fountain pen Han Ning gave her, the water bottle she drank from, and the fruit knife on her dormitory table. There seemed to be a faint smell of knockout powder in the air in the car. The composition of the drug was rather special, and was somewhat similar to what she had learned in the spirit jade. The source of this smell should be Zhou Meijuan's body or the thing she was holding in her hand. No wonder she was so unscrupulous. She knew she had some martial arts, but she still dared to sit in the same car with her. It must be because of the drug. What do you want? Jing Yunzhao asked with a gloomy look in her eyes. Zhou Meijun was a little out of it. Her face was frighteningly pale, but she still didn't speak. After a while, the car arrived at its destination. There was no one around. It was an unfinished building. After entering, the man in the front seat got out of the car and carried the unconscious Tao Guo to a secret place. You take this and follow me. Zhou Meijun pointed at Jing Yunzhao with the spray-like thing in her hand. As the spray approached, the smell became much clearer. Who gave you this? Jing Yunzhao didn't resist. She took the bag and asked as she walked out. There were knockout powders sold on the black market, but their effects weren't that exaggerated. Even if you drank the drug, it would take more than 20 minutes for the drug to react. However, the spray in Zhou Meijuan's hand was different. It was made of poisonous substances, including datura and various poisonous mushrooms. Those kinds of mushrooms weren't common. So far, there were only a few easy-to-find poisonous plants in her space. If she hadn't absorbed the spirit jade, the smell of the drug would have been engraved in her mind. She wouldn't have been able to smell it. She had never seen many of the old ancestors' medicines on the market. So far, only Grandfather Su would occasionally take out a few things that she felt familiar with. To put it bluntly, such a tricky knockout powder couldn't have been bought by Zhou Meijun. It was most likely made by the Su family, Shunxi. Zhou Meijun stared at her nervously. Jing Yunzhao, I'm sorry. I can't help it. If you don't walk over by yourself, I can only use medicine. There was no doubt about the efficacy of this drug. Once she inhaled it, she would definitely collapse to the ground in less than 10 seconds. Although Jing Yunzhao was confident that he could directly snatch the item from Zhou Meijuan's hands, after thinking about it, he still cooperated. The man placed Tao Gu on the ground. When Zhou Meijun walked over, she glanced at the two of them. Then, she took the fruit knife from Jing Yunzhao. Zhou Meijuan's hands trembled as she closed her eyes. She knew exactly what would happen next. She didn't want to be so ruthless. She had never thought of killing anyone in her life. But 10 million. As long as she handed over the murder charge to Jing Yunzhao, she would have 10 million. And if she couldn't do it, she would be the one to die. In the past few days, she had been receiving all kinds of threatening phone calls and text messages. She knew in her heart that if she didn't do something, she would disappear from the world, just like what was said in the threatening phone call. She didn't know who she had offended, but she was sure that her life was in the hands of others. Even when she went out in the past few days, she would always encounter all kinds of danger. Although it was just a scare, there was no guarantee that the other party's threat would come true next time. Chapter 884. Jing Yunzhao walked over and stared at Tao Gu on the ground, her eyes flashing with deep meaning. Zhou Meijun, have you ever heard of harming others and harming yourself? Jing Yunzhao suddenly said with his back facing her. What do you mean? Zhou Meijun didn't understand. Just as she finished her sentence, she felt a sharp pain in her neck. Suddenly, a warm current seemed to burst out from her body. She fell to the ground, her body twitching and blood splattering everywhere. Zhou Meijun didn't know when the man had appeared behind her. There was something stuck on his rubber gloves. It was obvious that it was a fingerprint mask. The man was panting heavily and his body was trembling. But after he made his move, he threw the knife on the ground and took out a bottle of medicine from his pocket and sprayed it at Jing Yun. Jing Yunzhao had already guessed that Tao Gu was just a bait to deceive Zhou Meijun. Jing Yunzhao quickly dodged, but the medicine was very strong. The smell filled the air and spread everywhere. He held his breath and stepped back. The man took the opportunity to pick up the other bottle on the ground. He knew that Jing Yunzhao knew martial arts, so he didn't bother him and quickly turned to escape. Jing Yunzhao looked at the man's back but didn't chase after him. On the ground, Zhou Meijuan's eyes were wide open. Blood was still flowing out. She would die in a few minutes. Jing Yunzhao sighed and didn't do anything to save her. Although this wasn't the wilderness, there were few people. The moment her throat was cut, blood gushed out. She had lost a lot of blood in an instant, and it was difficult to stop her blood pressure. In the end, Zhou Meijun was too naive. Frame her for killing Tao Ge? She didn't think about it. She had no reason to kill Tao Ge. Although they had some conflicts, it had been a few months and they didn't communicate at all. How could anyone believe that she would kill Tao Ge because of a small matter from a long time ago? If she really wanted to frame her for murder, the best candidate was Zhou Meijun. Both of them had new and old grudges. Because of her, Zhou Meijun didn't get into a university. Once one of them got into trouble, the other would naturally become a suspect. And when he got out of the car just now, that man seemed to want to make a move on Tao Ge, but in fact, his eyes were fixed on Zhou Meijun. His body turned slightly behind Zhou Meijun, so his real target was naturally Zhou Meijun. Shen Shi's trick was really complicated. If she didn't use the medicine, she wouldn't even know that it was her doing. But Shen Shi probably didn't realize that it wasn't a coincidence that she didn't drink the poisonous wine, but because she could smell it, but she went in such a roundabout way to frame her for Zhou Meijun. She wouldn't give her a chance to escape with the weapon, right? The police should be arriving soon. What would that man become then? An eyewitness? And Tao Ge Jing Yunjiao suddenly laughed coldly. She wasn't bad at scheming. How could she not figure it out? Tao Ge was most likely being used by someone. When she woke up and saw the dead Zhou Meijun, she would definitely lie whether she was willing or not. This lie was most likely to be that she vaguely saw Tao Ge kill someone and became the most crucial witness. Sure enough, less than 2 minutes after the man ran away, Jing Yunjiao heard the sound of police sirens. Even the police were prepared in advance. Lowering her head, Jing Yunjiao picked up the fruit knife with her fingerprints on the ground and threw it directly into the space. So did the pin and the empty bottle on the ground, which could prove that they were her belongings. Feeling that the police were coming, Jing Yunjiao walked into the empty building first. Then she entered the space and disappeared into the air. Chapter 885. Jing Yunjiao had also been paying attention to the movements outside in the space. The man who had attacked before had returned and immediately surrounded them with a group of people. How are you? As soon as the police arrived, they immediately checked the scene and found that one of the girls had died on the spot. They became more serious and quickly asked. Just now, someone nearby had called the police and said that they had smelled a stench near the unfinished building and suspected that there was a dead body. They immediately rushed over and searched, but found that the source of the stench was some stray dogs and cats. Just as they were about to evacuate with the police, another man ran down in panic and said that someone had died. Tao Ge woke up dizzily and was stunned when she saw the scene. She remembered that Zhou Meijun had found her and said that she knew a big secret of Jing Yunjiao and wanted to go with her to have a look. Originally, she didn't agree. After all, she had been penalized for participating in the forum comments before. If something happened this time, she was very likely to be fired. However, at that time, Zhou Meijun had mocked and ridiculed her, which made her very angry. Later, she even said that if she dared to go with her, she would give her 100,000 yuan. Therefore, after thinking about it, she still went with her. After all, she didn't think that it would be very serious. But as soon as she got in the car, she was knocked out by something that Zhou Meijun had sprayed on her. When she woke up, she was in this state. About 3 meters in front of her, Zhou Meijun was lying on the ground, surrounded by blood. Her eyes were wide open, as if she had died with grievances. There were forensic doctors around to check the situation. Classmate, do you still remember what happened? A policeman asked her again. I don't know. She was confused. At the same time, the man was frantically explaining to the police, I'm Meijun's boyfriend. Our relationship isn't bad. Meijun was originally a student at a university, but she was expelled because of a female student called Jing Yunjiao. She wasn't too happy about it, so she and this classmate called Tao Ge wanted to find Jing Yunjiao to have a chat. I was the one who acted as the driver to send them over, but since the 3 of them are still young girls, it wouldn't be good for a man like me to be there, so I just waited over there. The man pointed in a direction, and after the policeman recorded it, he continued. They chatted for about 10 minutes, then they started arguing over something. I listened carefully, and it seemed that Jing Yunjiao had taken a bad photo of Meijun. The more they argued, the worse it got. I thought about it, and when I was about to take Meijun away, I saw Jing Yunjiao holding a knife to Meijun's neck. Meijun collapsed on the spot, and the woman named Tao Gu also fainted. When I saw it, I was shocked and didn't know what to do. I subconsciously ran away from here. Then, I heard police sirens nearby and found you. The man's lies were very smooth. After Jing Yunzhao heard it in the space, he sneered. When Tao Gu heard it, she was also shocked. She only felt cold all over, especially when she saw Zhou Meijuan's eyes. She trembled because the truth was not like that. She had fainted from the beginning. She didn't quarrel with Jing Yunzhao at all. She didn't even see Jing Yunzhao. She didn't know anything. Classmate, is what he said true? What did you talk about? The policeman asked again. Tao Gu panicked. In front of her was Zhou Meijuan's body. She was the closest. If she said that she didn't see Jing Yunzhao, what would happen? She suddenly met the man's gaze and suddenly shivered. She nodded subconsciously. Yes, yes. Chapter 886. The policeman glanced at Tao Gu and comforted her. He felt some sympathy for her. After all, a young girl like her would definitely be traumatized after witnessing such a scene. We didn't find anyone suspicious nearby. The murder weapon wasn't found either. After a while, the results of the search were reported. When the man heard this, he frowned. That shouldn't be the case. She must be hiding somewhere nearby. When I ran away, she was standing there. She couldn't have gone far in such a short time. The man muttered in his heart. Unless Jing Yunzhao grew wings, he would definitely leave traces behind when he ran away. He might even run into the police and be caught on the spot. Now that the most important murder weapon had been taken away, it would be a troublesome matter. He didn't know if he would be able to get the full amount. We've searched the area and asked around. No one saw a beautiful girl coming in or out. After the policeman said this, he ordered, "Leave 2 people to continue the search. The rest of you will follow me back to the team. All right, you guys should follow me to the police station." It was a pity that a young girl in her prime was killed. At this moment, Jing Yunzhao was looking at the scene in the space with an expressionless face. This man knew some martial arts, and his movements were fast. He also attacked from behind and wore gloves on his hands, so there wasn't a single drop of blood on his clothes. A pair of gloves was very easy to deal with. Moreover, there weren't many traces on the gloves. In fact, she could have saved Zhou Meijun from his hands at that time. She could have even avoided this series of troubles. But there was no need to. She could guarantee that she wouldn't be implicated. As for Zhou Meijun, she said that it was karma for her to harm others and herself. No matter what the reason was, she deserved to end up like this. Tao Gu actually admitted to the man's words. She was really stupid. Zhou Meijuan's body was quickly taken away by the police. The scene was much quieter. The police officers who stayed behind didn't find anything and quickly left. When the sky turned dark, Jing Yunzhao came out of the space and immediately received a call. "Jing Er, what's wrong with you? The police just came to our school to look for you. They said that someone saw you kill someone." Hua Tianxian was very anxious. "Really?" Jing Yunzhao's voice was calm as he said, "You don't have to worry. I'm fine and I'll be fine. It's just that I won't be able to visit Haiqing tomorrow. Let's go next time." "You're not coming back tonight?" Hua Tianxian asked in surprise. She felt that Jing Yunzhao seemed to have been prepared for this, because when a normal person heard the news of a murder, if the person was really innocent, most of them would ask about the situation in a hurry. "Well, I'll go back tomorrow morning. You don't have to worry about the police," Jing Yunzhao said. After saying that, he gave a few more instructions and left in the dark to go to the old man's place. Witnesses were useless to her. The most important weapon had been thrown into her space. How could they accuse her of murder? If she could find an excuse for Shunxi in the past and say that everything was a coincidence, then from this moment on, she could be 100% sure that Shunxi didn't have good intentions towards her. She had to get to the bottom of this. She was looking forward to their meeting more than a month later. Jing Yunzhao stayed at the old man's place that night. When she returned to school the next morning, the police immediately came to her door. "Jing Yunzhao, where did you go after 4 in the afternoon yesterday?" the police asked directly. "Yesterday? I was taking a taxi to go to an elder's place. On the way, I met Zhou Meijun and the others. She insisted on seeing me. After I got in the taxi, I realized that they wanted to take me to a more remote place. I felt that they were up to no good, so I got off first. After that, I stayed at the elder's place. At that time, there were surveillance cameras on the road, so Jing Yunjiao could only tell the truth. However, the later part of the road was more remote, so she could say that she got off at any time. Chapter 887. When Jing Yunjiao said this, the police looked a little suspicious, so they simply took her to the police station to continue the interrogation. Jing Yunjiao's expression was calm, without a trace of guilt. When the policeman saw her, he couldn't help but believe her a little. After all, this matter involved a human life. If she could still be so righteous after killing someone, then this person was really too scary. How could an 18-year-old girl have such a perverted temperament? Yesterday, someone saw you kill Zhou Meijun with their own eyes. I have a personal grudge with the deceased and another classmate, and the other witness is Zhou Meijun's boyfriend. They have a reason to wrongly accuse me. Also, you said that the murder weapon was a knife. Where is the knife? Could it be that I can teleport and disappear from the scene of the murder to somewhere else? After Jing Yunjiao finished speaking, she said, "My family's elders will be here soon. They can also prove that I was at home when the case happened." Grandpa Shen and Su Xingyuan did not know that this matter was related to Shen Shi, but they knew that she was wrongly accused of murder. The police were confused and only felt that this case was really worrying. By the way, I suggest that you bring Tao Gu here to confront me. Some truths will naturally become clear. Jing Yunjiao smiled and looked up. When she said this, the police also agreed. After a while, Grandpa Shen and Su Xingyuan also came to clear her name. Jing Yunjiao and Tao Gu were in a room, facing each other. The camera in the room flashed red, and the room was extremely quiet. "Tao Gu, I heard that you admitted to the police that I killed someone. Did you see it?" Jing Yunjiao asked with a bit of ridicule. Tao Gu was nervous and clenched her fists. I did see it. When she admitted it yesterday, she was too nervous, and that man was really scary. Also, she was one of the people present. What if she was implicated? Moreover, she did not know what happened when she was in a coma. Since the man said that Jing Yunjiao did it, maybe it was? Jing Yunjiao had a violent personality. She had beaten someone during military training. Zhou Meijun hated her so much. It was reasonable for an accident to happen when the two of them had a conflict. Oh? Jing Yunjiao laughed instead of getting angry. Then how do you think I did it? Did Zhou Meijun struggle? You just slit her neck. Of course she resisted, but you know martial arts, so? Tao Gu was a little nervous. Jing Yunjiao nodded. Tao Gu, why are you so nervous? You're sweating. Let's just treat it as a small talk. Think about it carefully. We're both from Huaning County, but we've always been at loggerheads ever since we met. Don't you think it's a pity? Jing Yunjiao knocked on the table and continued. Back then, you hated me because I was better than you in everything, right? For example, these clothes. With my background, I shouldn't have been able to afford them. Speaking of clothes, Tao Gu, do I look better yesterday or today? Jing Yunjiao changed the topic and asked. Tao Ge's entire body shook, and she immediately became anxious. How would she know? She didn't even see her yesterday. I don't want to answer such a boring question, she immediately said. Boring? If it's boring, why are you so scared? Could it be that you don't even know what I was wearing yesterday? So you were lying from the beginning to the end? Jing Yunjiao said with a smile. For some reason, Tao Gu felt that this smile was very cold, so cold that it penetrated her bones. She regretted it. She should not have agreed to follow Jing Yunjiao with Zhou Meijun. Chapter 888. Unfortunately, there was only one choice. There was no possibility of going back and starting over. Tao Gu was sitting opposite Jing Yunjiao. Her heart was about to jump out of her chest. Tao Gu, I didn't expect you to be such a vicious person. You were sleeping when I got into the car, but you insisted that you saw me. If I didn't leave the scene, how could you not know what I was wearing? But why did you lie? Could it be that you were the one who killed Zhou Meijun? Jing Yunjiao purposely asked. Tao Gu stood up immediately. I didn't kill her. It's true that Zhou Meijun and I have misunderstandings. The two of you are about the same. If Zhou Meijun didn't frame me, you wouldn't have been punished. You couldn't offend me, so you quarreled with Zhou Meijun and accidentally killed her with that man. In the end, you work together to push the blame to me. But you have to know that everything in this world requires evidence. I got into the car suddenly. How could I have a knife? You, on the other hand, went out together to meet up. It's normal for you to have a knife in advance. Jing Yunzhao enunciated each and every word slowly and methodically. But when Tao Gu heard this, she only felt that she was going to faint. You're lying. I didn't kill anyone. I don't even know that man. If you think I'm lying, then tell me what I was wearing yesterday and what kind of bag I was carrying. Also, we should have talked, right? What did we say? That man was in the car too. Write it down across the room. If the answers are the same, I'll believe you. Tao Gu, don't try to do this kind of thing if you don't have the intelligence. You'll know that you're lying if you say I killed someone, right? The more you push the blame to me, the more it proves that you're guilty. Jing Yunzhao was still not anxious. Tao Ji's heart was already on the verge of breaking down. A normal person opening their eyes to see blood was enough to scare her for a long time. Now that Jing Yunzhao said this, she was completely exposed. I don't know. I don't know anything. Jing Yunzhao, I don't know if you killed her, but I'm innocent. I just got into the car and promised her to follow you. But as soon as I got into the car, I fell asleep. When I woke up, she was already dead. Tao Gu finally spoke. Jing Yunzhao let out a laugh. You could have just told me the truth, but you didn't yesterday. Jing Yunzhao's voice was light and cold. Jing Yunzhao stood up and walked out of the house. He looked at the astonished policeman and smiled. Now you should be able to prove my innocence, right? Tao Gu admitted that she hadn't seen me, which proves that I wasn't lying. But that man kept saying that the three of us were quarreling, and it was obvious who was right and who was wrong. But since it has nothing to do with me, can I leave now? The other party nodded. Yes, but we need to go through some procedures first. Jing Yunzhao responded and left. The contact between the man and Tao Gu and Zhou Meijun was similar. Without the murder knife and fingerprints, it was difficult to determine whether Tao Gu or the man killed the person. Originally, if Tao Gu had told the truth from the beginning, she would have found a way to change her words and prove her innocence. After all, even if the crime was not confirmed, the rumors of murder could definitely destroy a person. But Tao Gu had lied and pushed the blame to her in order to get rid of suspicion. So, she couldn't blame her for being merciless. Jing Yunzhao supported the old man as they left together. Her gaze was cold. She could predict that Tao Gu wouldn't be caught, but she wouldn't have a good time being entangled with an unclear murder suspect. However, people always have to pay the price for their own choices. Chapter 889. After Jing Yunzhao left, Tao Gu was left alone in the interrogation room. Facing the police's interrogation, she couldn't defend herself. Other than insisting that she didn't kill anyone, there was nothing else she could do. What kind of grudge do the other two have with you? How dare they accuse you of murder? Outside the police station, Elder Su asked. He naturally believed that the brat didn't kill anyone. It wasn't because she was a kind person, but because if she really killed someone, she wouldn't have done it so obviously. Who knows? Maybe they think I'm easy to bully. Jing Yunzhao smiled and didn't take it to heart. Elder Su pursed his lips. Easy to bully? If it was someone else, he would believe it. But Jing Yunzhao, this brat was taught by him. 2 or 3 years ago, it might have been easier to control her, but now, with the growth of age, knowledge, and experience, her temperament was no longer the same as before. It was difficult for ordinary people to plot against her. Brat, did you offend someone? Don't think I'm a fool. No matter who the murderer is, there must be someone behind him. After all, killing is such a big thing. If there isn't a huge benefit, those two definitely wouldn't do it. Elder Su snorted and turned to look at the scenery outside the car window. Elder, you're so smart, but you make me seem a little stupid. Jing Yunzhao didn't tell the truth. Instead, he said, don't worry, I definitely have the ability to protect myself. It's difficult for others to hurt me. Jing Yunzhao didn't say it directly, but Elder Su understood and didn't ask. The capital is a place with hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Your martial arts are a little high, but you still have to be careful. Later, tell the Li family's boy and ask him to get you a good gun to play with, Elder Su said. Okay, but Elder Su, I have something to report to you. Jing Yunzhao moved his body and said hesitantly, "Go ahead. I founded a pharmaceutical company, and the scale of it isn't small. There'll be a business gala in a month's time, and I should be attending it. Uncle Su will definitely be there, so he should be able to see me then," Jing Yunzhao said. She didn't want to go past the old man to see Su Yuan-tek. She didn't want to anger the old man. There were too many mysteries about Shanxi's affairs. She still didn't know why Shanxi was against her. She felt that it was better to keep it a secret from Grandpa for the time being. He was old, and the less he cared about these troublesome things, the better. Moreover, the reason why Shanxi was against her had a lot to do with Su Xianlan. If she told Grandpa, Grandpa would definitely be unable to eat or sleep. After all, Su Xianlan was Grandpa's lifeline. "Brat, if you want to know Yuanza, just say it. It's not your first day running a company, and you've been a hands-off boss for the past 2 years. Now you suddenly want to take responsibility. Who are you trying to fool?" Grandpa Su directly pointed out Jing Yunzhao's thoughts with one sentence. Jing Yunzhao's face turned red, which was rare. She didn't know if it was because this old man was the same kind of person as her, so she couldn't hide in front of him. "Yes, I want to meet Uncle Su." Jing Yunzhao nodded and admitted. "Why?" Grandpa Su snorted, looking a little arrogant, especially when he glanced at Jing Yunzhao, as if to say, "You can't escape from my eyes." Chapter 890. Su Xingyuan drove the car and saw that Jing Yunzhao was completely guessed by the old man. A smile appeared on his serious face. After thinking for a while, Jing Yunzhao said seriously, "Elder Su, I also see you as my grandfather or even my master. Uncle Su is your eldest son, so it's normal for me to want to meet him. Moreover, Uncle Su is the leader of the capital city. It's good for the company to have a good relationship with him." The old man glanced at her. He sighed. "You have more and more secrets." Jing Yunzhao was not someone who liked to rely on connections. Otherwise, she would have already spread the news that she was the boss of Yuling Wine. She saw a lot of external fame and fortune very clearly. Once fame and fortune were obtained, many other things would be sacrificed, including freedom. Therefore, she had been careful to live like an ordinary person for the past 2 years. "Forget it. You can go if you want. But Brat, Yuanza is my son. I know what kind of person he is. Your face will bring you benefits. But if it's him, I'm afraid." The old man paused. His son was very suspicious. After seeing Jing Yunzhao, he would definitely suspect her relationship with Qianlan. At that time, he would definitely compare her DNA with Qianlan's DNA file. He had always wanted to confirm Jing Yunzhao's identity, but did not dare to. If Jing Yunzhao was his maternal granddaughter, then he was afraid that his daughter was indeed gone. He would rather believe that his daughter was living a happy life somewhere because of some unforeseen event than believe that she had left this world. And if she wasn't his maternal granddaughter, he would be disappointed. It was not for nothing that he had been so good to her for so many years. His heart was as clear as a mirror, and he knew everything. However, he didn't want to expose that layer of window paper. After all, he was old, and he wanted to live a peaceful life. Those stimuli were too cruel for him, but now, the old man's face became serious. He had been numb to himself for 2 or 3 years, but he could not continue like this. After all, this girl was still very young. Forget it. Let nature take its course. Afraid of what? At this time, Jing Yunzhao was slightly stunned and asked again, but the old man had already closed his eyes to rest, pretending not to hear. Jing Yunzhao thought about it and roughly guessed what the old man meant. The old man was probably worried that Su Yuan-tek would misunderstand. But now the identity problem was easy to identify. Although Su Xianlan was not there, there were traces of her in the Su family. When the time came, they would know. After sending the old man home, Jing Yunzhao went back to school. Seeing that she was not detained by the police, Hua Tianxian and the others breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, it was a Saturday, and many students were not around. When the police came, they did not cause much of a commotion. They only said that they wanted to inquire about Jing Yunzhao's situation, so there were no negative rumors about her. She was fine, but Tao Gu was different. Ever since Tao Gu was taken away by the police, she had never returned. Even a fake story could become the truth. Have you explained it to the police? What's going on? Tao Gu doesn't seem to be back yet. Could it really be? Hua Tianxian frowned. She was very shocked. Tao Gu killed her? But that Tao Gu was obviously a girl with vanity. She should not be able to do such a gory thing. After all, it was cutting the throat. How could someone without a certain level of psychological preparation do such a thing? Compared to Tao Gu, she even felt that Jing Yunzhao had the courage to do so. Don't think too much. Whether it was her or not has nothing to do with us, Jing Yunzhao said softly. Chapter 891. Jing Yunzhao was not stupid enough to admit that Hua Yao had killed Hua Yao. If she did, she would lose all evidence of her alibi. Moreover, she had her retribution. Since Tao Gu had accused her of killing Hua Yao, she deserved a taste of her own medicine. Hua Tianxian glanced at Hua Yao suspiciously. She pondered for a moment and guessed what was going on. It was just that she had lived in a place like the Hua family since she was young, so she was very clear on what she should say and what she shouldn't. Jing Yunzhao's attitude was already so obvious, so she naturally wouldn't foolishly go up and ask more questions. Yao Baobao was curious, but Ren Xingyue and Hua Tianxian stopped her. Jing we agreed to visit her on set today. Hua Tianxian raised her head and winked at Hua Yao. But the time now. I just asked someone to help me ask around. Originally, she was going to shoot the daytime scene today, but she changed it at the last minute to shoot the night scene. If we go now, she'll probably have to wait at the set for the whole day. Let's go now to accompany her. What do you think? Hua Tianxian said with a smirk. Jing Yunzhao frowned. Why did they change the night scene all of a sudden? If she has to film during the day tomorrow, she won't be able to rest for a day and a half. I'm not sure. Why don't you go over and take a look? I have already prepared a gift for you. Hua Tianxian pointed at the pile of gifts on the floor. Jing Yunzhao contemplated before she nodded. However, she turned her head and stared at Hua Yao. Xian air. Hua Tianxian immediately shuddered. What the hell? Why are you suddenly calling me something so mushy? Hua Tianxian's face stiffened. Fine. What do you want me to do? The Hua family must have a lot of houses, right? Do you have any that are close to the set? I want to buy some things on the way and make some porridge and side dishes to bring over. Jing Yunzhao still had that serious look on her face. She knew Xiao Haiqing too well. That woman was usually very carefree and straightforward, but once she set her mind on something, she would definitely do it without any regard for her life. Back then, in order to bring down James, he did not even tell her that he had been photographed. His heart was filled with the idea of perishing together. People with this kind of temper did not care about their own bodies at all. Recently, filming must have been very tough. Xian Han was a very unlucky character. Once Xiao Haiqing was put into the role, there was a high chance that her body would be ruined. Hua Tianxian breathed a sigh of relief. She thought it was something big, but it turned out that it was just borrowing the kitchen. No problem, but are you good at cooking? I haven't had lunch yet either. Do you want to make some more for me to try? Hua Tianxian asked curiously. Sure. Jing Yunzhao nodded. Yao Baobao was even more hungry when she heard this. Fortunately, she had agreed to go next time, so she did not follow. The Hua family was in the jewelry business. There were thousands of stores all over the country. The Hua Corporation was very famous. According to Hua Tianxian herself, Hua Jewelry's annual turnover was in the tens of billions. Even the net profit was close to 10 billion. As the daughter of the Hua Corporation, her net worth was not low. However, Jing Yunzhao was not bad either. Although Yuling Wine's current turnover was not as high as the Hua Corporation's, the net profit was similar. Moreover, the Hua Corporation had been a stable company for many years. Yuling Wine had only been established recently. There was a lot of room for growth in the next 2 years. It might even surpass the Hua Corporation soon. Of course, they were not in the same industry, so there was not much to compare. Chapter 892. The house that Hua Tianxian brought Jing Yunzhao to wasn't very big. It was a garden bungalow with beautiful scenery. My dad gave this to me as a coming-of-age gift. I just accepted it. Isn't it great? Hua Tianxian's eyes sparkled. It's pretty good, Jing Yunzhao said sincerely. Hua Tianxian raised her eyebrows and smiled brightly. Then, she hurriedly helped Jing Yunzhao carry the things into the kitchen. The kitchen was very big and had everything. However, because no one had lived in the house before, it seemed a little cold and cheerless. There was also the smell of dust in the air. Let me say this first. I don't know how to cook, so I can only watch you cook. Hua Tianxian shrugged. Jing Yunjiao nodded and didn't say anything else. Although these things were bought, Jing Yunjiao secretly swapped them with the supplies in the space. Now, after a simple cleaning, he started cooking. Hua Tianxian watched from the side and was so surprised that she couldn't close her mouth. Jing Yunjiao's knife skills were simply perfect. Pong, pong, pong. The sound of chopping could be heard continuously. The vegetables on the table were cut to almost the same thickness. It looked as if they were cut by a machine. Not only that, but his culinary skills were even better. Hua Tianxian watched in confusion, but she could already smell the rich aroma. She was dumbfounded as she watched the consecutive dishes being served in an orderly manner. Did you specially learn how to cook? His culinary skills are even better than the high-end chef we hired. Hua Tianxian subconsciously said. I just cooked too much, Jing Yunjiao said softly. Before she learned how to read, she had already learned how to cook. However, it was just some home-cooked dishes. Her cooking skills weren't that good. However, after learning martial arts in this life, her knife skills became better and better. Also, her sense of smell and taste were better than ordinary people's. Moreover, the spirit jade from the ancestor contained many things. Medicinal cuisine was one of them. After integrating it, her culinary skills also improved. Jing Yunjiao's understatement made Hua Tianxian feel uncomfortable. She seemed to understand why Jing Yunjiao's personality was so indifferent. For girls of the same age as her, even if they knew how to cook, it would only be average. At most, their food would be delicious, but Jing Yunjiao knew everything and was better than others. That was abnormal, because this kind of ability could not be innate. Presumably, Jing Yunjiao had lived for 18 years, and every day was filled with work and learning. Although she wasn't a young lady from a rich family, she felt that her life was more tiring. At the very least, she had everything she needed. Although she lacked the love of her parents, she had a lot of other things. Jing Yunjiao's cooking speed was very fast. She basically made everything according to Xiao Haiqing's taste. Even after everything was packed up, the aroma was still lingering in the air. After everything was ready, they set off. This time, Hua Tianxian didn't show off. She didn't sit in a red sports car like she did when she met Qizhou. Instead, she drove a very simple caravan. It was mainly to make it convenient for Xiao Haiqing to rest. Not long after, they arrived at the filming location. Jing Yunjiao first made a call, but no one picked up. After thinking about it, he got out of the car with Hua Tianxian to look for the filming location. The scenery here was excellent. There were ancient buildings next to it. Everywhere was filled with a simple atmosphere. The exact location of the filming location was easy to find. The two of them quickly went over. There were many busy men and women in front of them. Some were sitting and waiting, while others were carefully watching the actors and actresses who were in the middle of filming. Jing Yunjiao glanced around and finally saw Xiao Haiqing. Chapter 893. The two of them lifted their feet and walked over. As they approached, Jing Yunjiao's face darkened. Little Xiao, didn't you add sugar to this coffee? Why does it taste so bad? After saying that, she directly threw it to the side and spilled it all over the floor. I'll give you the money. Buy me another cup. Remember to add more sugar. I hate bitter things. Xiaoru, I'm sorry. Our family's little Xiao still needs to read the script. How about this? I'll help you buy it. The agent, Ling Lin, immediately smiled and said, Sister Lin, you haven't brought anyone with you for many years, right? I was quite surprised that you suddenly brought little Xiao along. But when I saw little Xiao, I knew. Fortunately, I changed her in time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to make a name for myself until now. The woman sat and acted like a young mistress. Little Xiao, help me buy it. It's not like I don't want to pay. Sister Lin, you have experience. Help me see how it's done. After saying that, Xiao Haiqing and Ling Lin didn't move. Jing Yunjiao could feel her tense body from a few meters away. Little sister, little Xiao, here's the money. Go quickly. Remember not to suffer. After the woman finished speaking, She put a red bill on the table in front of her and closed her eyes to rest. Jing Yunjiao took a deep breath and walked over. If you can't bear the hardship, why drink coffee? Jing Yunjiao coldly snorted and asked Xiao Haiqing, did she pay for that cup of coffee just now? Xiao Haiqing saw Jing Yunjiao's brows loosen, and she shook her head. Jing Yunjiao directly took the money on the table and stuffed it into Xiao Haiqing's pocket. Since that's the case, you can keep this money, including the travel expenses. Even though it's a bit too little, there's nothing you can do when you meet someone like this. Okay, but didn't you call yesterday and say that you can't come today? Xiao Haiqing asked. I've settled the matter. I know that you're filming tonight, so I came over to take a look. Jing Yunjiao glanced at Ling Lin. Sister Lin, I asked you to follow Haiqing not only to pave the way for her, but also to prevent her from being bullied. You're an experienced manager, so you should be able to do that, right? Back then, she was the one who thought of Ling Lin, but at that time, Ling Lin hadn't had a job or income for a long time. Jing Yunjiao decided to follow Shan Tong's path and signed a contract with her. Ling Lin's salary would be paid by Jing Yunjiao, while Ling Jia would be in charge of handling Haiqing's daily affairs. You are, Big Sister Lin. This is Yunjiao. She was the one who introduced you, Xiao Haiqing explained. Then, she turned to Jing Yunjiao and said, don't be angry. That's how this circle is. Miss Jing. Sister Lin knew who it was and immediately greeted her. Ling Lin was in her 30s. She did not look very pretty, but it was obvious that she was a straightforward person. Jing Yunjiao was just reminding her. There were some things that she understood in her heart, so she only nodded and didn't say anything else. However, the woman beside her stood up. Who are you? Jing Yunjiao furrowed her brows. The woman in front of her was about 23 or 24 years old. She was very beautiful, but the makeup made the ends of her eyes slender. She gave off an enchanting and bewitching feeling. No matter how she looked at it, she looked like a bad woman. Yunjiao, this is Miss Muru. She's the second female lead in this drama. I've been acting with her a lot, Xiao Haiqing explained. A flash of understanding crossed Jing Yunjiao's mind. Then it's no wonder. She was not a good person, both in and out of the drama. She had read the script of this drama. The second female lead was extremely evil. You don't have any scenes to film during the day, right? I've made some food. Come back to the car with me to rest. Jing Yunjiao's attitude was firm. She pulled Ling Lin away. Chapter 894. Jing Yunjiao's appearance was outstanding. The moment she appeared, she attracted a lot of attention. When Xiao Haiqing heard that there was food to eat, she didn't want to bother with Muru anymore and immediately followed after Jing Yunjiao. Yunjiao, you treat me the best. You came all the way here to give me food. Oh yes, this is... She pointed at Hua Tianxian. Celestial immortal who rolled her eyes, but she finally saw her. It was the first time that the daughter of the Hua family had been ignored to this extent. This is my roommate. Her name is Hua Tianxian. Jing Yunjiao introduced her. Hua Tianxian lifted her chin and smiled. Xiao Haiqing, I know you. Jing often mentions you. When she was in a good mood, she would address her differently. Is that so? Xiao Haiqing was stunned for a moment, but she quickly said, thank you for taking care of Yunjiao. If there's a chance in the future, let's drink and chat more. Okay. Hua Tianxian was still in high spirits. This Xiao Haiqing did look a little likable. She was good-looking, her voice was pleasant, but not pretentious. Her every move had a sense of elegance, and she looked very refreshing. What's up with Muru? Is it because of her that you have to wait here for the night scene? Jing Yunjiao asked as he took out the food in the car. Her? Actually, there's nothing to be angry about. Muru's personality is like this. She looks bad and doesn't have a good attitude, but it's all on the surface. I have a lot of scenes with her. If we interact more, the filming will go more smoothly, Xiao Haiqing said cheerfully. I've heard of Muru. It wasn't easy for her to make it to the B-list. She looks more feminine, so most of her fans are otakus, Hua Tianxian added. Then what's with your night scene? Jing Yunjiao frowned. He hadn't forgotten. Indeed, it's not Muru's fault. Besides, she has to wait just like me. Xiao Haiqing smelled the aroma of the dishes and continued. The female lead of this drama is quite popular. Her schedule has been packed recently. She said that she has to attend a variety show tonight, so she had to film her scenes in advance. Only then did Jing Yunjiao's expression soften a little. Ling Lin was drenched in cold sweat in the car. She was afraid that Jing Yunjiao would think that she was abusing Xiao Haiqing. By the way, I can cook a lot of dishes. Do you want to invite some of your close friends to try some? Additionally, a heavenly immortal also brought gifts over, Jing Yunjiao said. Xiao Haiqing did not refuse. She knew that Jing Yunjiao was doing this for her own good. Besides, many people had seen them when they arrived. They would ask about it later. Immediately, the three of them carried the gifts out of the car. Xiao Haiqing exchanged a few pleasantries with many people and sent the gifts out. She also called out to them, indicating that if anyone was hungry, they could eat together. However, most of them were discerning and did not join in the fun. Hua Tianxian had bought enough gifts for everyone. The gift was a crystal bracelet that was beautifully packaged. Regardless of the price, it was still a good shopfront. What's that smell? When the three of them sent the gifts back to eat, a sound came from the car door. Director? Xiao Haiqing was shocked. You want to eat together? The director was in his 40s or 50s. He was very capable. All the dramas he had filmed had good results and a good reputation. However, he was also famous for his eccentric temper. Because of Shun Tong, the director treated her well, but he was not exactly pleasant. Hence, Xiao Haiqing was just being polite. However, in the next second, the director said, "Since we're stopping work, I'll try it too." Chapter 895. Xiao Haiqing couldn't help but be surprised. She stared at the director in astonishment. The director acted as if he didn't see her and called two more people into the car. He didn't treat her as an outsider at all. Which restaurant did you buy these dishes from? Do they serve boxed lunches? The director picked up a few pieces of good food and piled them into a small mountain before asking. Jing Yunjiao blushed with shame. The director was too impolite. My friend made these himself. Xiao Haiqing was also speechless. She was afraid that she would eat all the dishes for the director award. So she immediately picked up a lot of food for Jing Yunjiao and herself. The male and female assistants who were called over by the director were also a little upset. They didn't dare to eat more of such good food. They felt so wronged. After all, this was a private car for these girls. If the director came alone and someone took photos, he wouldn't be able to explain himself. Otherwise, he wouldn't have called them over. When the director heard this, he raised his head and looked at Jing Yunjiao and Hua Tianxian in surprise. Before this, he had only smelled the food and hadn't seen them. But when he looked, his eyes lit up. You are also from the Film and Television Academy? Do you have any previous works? What roles have you acted in? The director asked immediately, not hiding his surprise. Director, these two friends of mine are university students from a university. They have never acted before. Xiao Haiqing was speechless. The filming of this drama hadn't been going on for long. She hadn't spoken much with the director in private. At most, the director would sometimes give her a few pointers, telling her what was wrong and what emotions needed to be stirred up. Thus, they weren't familiar with each other at all. But now that she saw the way the director fought over the dishes, she didn't feel that scary anymore. Never acted before? The director was stunned for a moment. He had seen actors of Xiao Haiqing's age before. When their friends came to visit, they mostly had some ulterior motives. Most of them wanted to use their connections to get a few cameo roles. Very few of them had such pure motives. The two girls were good-looking. In his eyes, they were considered top-notch, especially the one sitting next to Xiao Haiqing. Her eyes were cold, and her eyes were as dark as ink. They looked bottomless. With such looks and temperament, it was easy to create some classic characters. Just like how he had taken a liking to Xiao Haiqing, it wasn't just because of Shun Tong. The most important thing was that this girl only needed to settle down for a period of time, and her future was limitless. Do the two of you have any thoughts on acting? If I'm not mistaken, my next drama will also be a period drama, and there will be roles suitable for the three of you, the director said. Xiao Haiqing was shocked and glanced at Jing Yunjiao. Sorry, I'm not interested in acting, Jing Yunjiao replied first. Me too. Hua Tianxian raised her eyebrows and smiled arrogantly. If her parents knew that she was acting, they would definitely beat her to death because they were now looking forward to her learning so that she could inherit the company in the future. The director was also a person with good taste. When he heard the tone, he knew that the other party didn't intend to play hard to get. He sighed in his heart. But on second thought, the entertainment industry was very deep. The two little girls seemed to have good characters. It would be a pity if they were tainted. Now that the director wasn't here, the scene outside naturally couldn't be filmed. Everyone was a little curious, and many people gathered not far from the RV to watch. They only felt that the fragrance was overflowing, and it made people salivate. Those who had been invited by Xiao Haiqing before couldn't help but regret. If they had known that the smell was so good, they would have eaten together. But it was a little late now. Director? So you're eating delicious food here? Can we join in the fun? Chapter 896. Two women came over from outside the car and said something. Without waiting for the director to speak, they had already brought the crew's lunchbox forward. However, Jing Yunjiao clearly felt that the director's face had become serious. She immediately picked up a lot of food and put it in the bowl. The corner of her mouth couldn't help but twitch. If she felt it right, the director should be protecting the food. It was a pity that the two women outside the door wanted to get close to the director. When the two women came forward, they felt that the director didn't seem very happy. However, they didn't know why. One of them smiled and said, "Little Xiao, the food tastes so good. It seems that the crew's food will be handed over to you." The woman who spoke was Mu Ru. The other person next to her was the female lead of this drama. She looked familiar and should be a popular star. "This food was cooked by my friend. Usually, others can't eat it." Xiao Haiqing was still polite. She also felt a little sorry for Jing Yunjiao. The food she cooked tasted good, but now it was going to be wasted. Mu Ru and Yiwan's relationship with her was average. It could even be said that it wasn't good. She was just a newcomer in the entertainment industry. Although she had a good relationship with the crew, these two women were the exception. Mu Ru was a jealous person. Someone had praised her young and beautiful in front of Mu Ru, causing Mu Ru to mock her and target her from time to time. However, this woman was not scheming. Usually, those small things were harmless to her. But Yiwan was different. Yiwan was an A-list star who had acted in many dramas. Now was the time when she was popular. She looked gentle on the surface, but in fact, she was arrogant and cold to people other than the director. So far, except for the lines, the two hadn't spoken a word for so many days. Although Jing Yunjiao was the kind of woman who didn't like to talk to others, she was completely different from Yiwan. Yiwan was the kind of person who stepped on the weak, but Jing Yunjiao was the same to everyone. But after all, they were in the crew and she was a newcomer. It was better to maintain a good relationship on the surface. "Director, I wasn't in a good state just now. Thank you for your hard work," Yiwan said politely. The director nodded. "Take advantage of the break to adjust." Jing Yunjiao couldn't help but smile. The director probably added in his heart, "You're not in a good state, but you still have the nerve to eat so happily? By the way, director, I heard that you're going to shoot a harem drama next?" Yiwan asked. Most of her characters were silly and sweet, and the audience was tired of them. If she could get the role of the director's next female lead, it would be a good opportunity for her to change her style. "We'll talk about it after we finish filming this drama." However, the director did not give her any face at all. He was a man of few words, but he did stuff a lot of food into his mouth. Yiwan was tactfully rejected. Her face was a little embarrassed, but she tactfully did not ask further. The amount of food Jing Yunjiao cooked wasn't small. Logically speaking, even if there were two more people, it would still be enough. However, she had underestimated the director's appetite. By the time he got up, the food in front of him had already been swept clean. There wasn't even any juice left. "By the way, Xiao Xiao, you don't have many scenes today. Why don't you film yours first? That way, you won't have to stay up all night," the director said in front of everyone as soon as he got out of the car. Hearing this, Yiwan was stunned. "Director, I still have a show to do tonight. 2 or 3 hours is enough for a show. Since you're not in a good state, I'll give you some time to get used to it." After saying this, the director said to the others, "Get ready to shoot the original scenes." Chapter 897. To Xiao Haiqing, This was a surprise from the heavens. Staying up late wasn't easy, let alone for a day and a half. Now, it was solved with a meal. If she had known that the director was such a glutton, she would have learned a few tricks from Yun Zhao. Xiao Haiqing glanced at Yiwan and Mu Ru. Mu Ru was also very happy. After all, she was one of the beneficiaries. However, Yiwan's expression wasn't so good. She looked depressed. However, Xiao Haiqing wasn't someone who was afraid of getting into trouble. Yiwan was the one who snatched away the original set, so it wasn't impossible for her to get it back now. As for whether Yiwan would be angry or not, it didn't matter. The director's attitude was related to the direction of the whole crew. Moreover, Xiao Haiqing's popularity was very good. Many people were relieved for her. Jing Yunzhao finally felt that the director was more pleasing to the eye. After eating and drinking to his heart's content, the director was in high spirits and started to shoot. Xiao Haiqing was in a good mood. The shooting was very smooth. Compared to Yiwan's situation in the morning, it was a complete opposite. Not only that, almost everyone found that the director's temper seemed to be much better. After every scene, he would explain it to Xiao Haiqing very carefully. This was very rare. Director Wang was very famous. Many superstars had to be polite to him when they saw him. Most of the artists who could receive his guidance had a very bright future. Therefore, Xiao Haiqing's status in the crew instantly rose. However, Yiwan clenched her fists. After returning to her nanny van, she asked her agent to make a call. Jing Yunzhao and Hua Tianxian watched Xiao Haiqing shoot. The two of them found it very interesting. However, an hour later, a few reporters suddenly swarmed around the crew and rushed to Yiwan's nanny van. Yiwan, we just received news that you were supposed to shoot the scene, but it was snatched away by a newcomer with a backer. Is that true? It's not like that. The director always treats everyone equally. My scene was originally scheduled to be shot at night. Yiwan smiled. If that's the case, why are you in the crew now? Won't it affect you greatly if the newcomer snatches your filming time? I also heard that she snatched your part in the scene. Is that true? The reporter asked again. The drama palace of the eunuch had been very famous recently. When they first started filming, there were also reporters who came over to watch. However, the director of the production team was famous for his bad temper. There was almost no news about his production team. Now that there was a rare conflict, they naturally had to verify it. Yiwan glanced at the reporter awkwardly. However, in the reporter's eyes, her gaze looked like she had been wronged. ESB. That fan also took a picture of Xiao Haiqing filming, but it was quite far away, so only a rough outline could be seen. This little bitch is obviously not a good person. She's playing a very important third female lead. I heard that she has a lot of scenes. She must have slept with the director to get more scenes. Director Wang is famous for being a fair director. Above, don't talk nonsense. Even if she didn't sleep with the director, she must have slept with someone else in the crew. This scheming bitch is Xiao Haiqing. She's an 18-year-old student. If she doesn't have a backer, I won't believe it. Suddenly, Yiwan's Weibo fell. Most of the comments were insulting Xiao Haiqing and comforting words. Chapter 898. As soon as the crazy comments came out, someone immediately contacted the crew. Soon, the director found out about it. However, the number of reporters was increasing. It was a headache. Jing Yunzhao originally didn't know the situation, but once the reporters and fans came, even if she didn't want to understand, she would still know everything clearly. She immediately logged into her account to take a look. As expected, someone had already searched for her #1 fan. In a short period of time, the number of comments had already reached tens of thousands, and it was still increasing at a straight line. This woman really knows how to act. Hua Tianxian rolled her eyes in Yiwan's direction when she heard this. At this moment, the director was surrounded by reporters. The cameras kept snapping at Xiao Haiqing. Xiao Haiqing didn't panic. She had been filming. Although she didn't know what was going on, she knew that if she didn't perform well enough, she would become a black mark in the future. Director Wang, I heard that there were many famous actors competing for the role of Xian Han. Why did you choose Xiao Haiqing, a newcomer who couldn't be more new? The reporter asked aggressively. The director was so angry that his face turned green. It wasn't easy to make progress today, but this happened again. He was in the industry and knew the importance of the female lead. He also knew how to hype things up. Therefore, he couldn't say anything that was unfavorable to Yuan. It's all based on her ability. Xiao Xiao is an actress that I have high hopes for. She has a bright future. As for the role of Xian Han, she played it very well, the director said directly. But we heard that she didn't go through the proper channels for the audition. She was introduced by someone who has a strong image in the entertainment industry. You should know who that person is, right? The reporter asked. I only look at the actor's abilities. That's a fact that everyone knows. So you're saying that Xiao Haiqing was introduced to you by someone through the back door? The director's face turned cold. Xiao Haiqing didn't have a good time. Jing Yunjiao looked at the comments and wanted to kill someone. She had been managing this account for the past few days. It was always peaceful and harmonious. Now, it was a gathering of all kinds of vulgarities. She couldn't take it anymore. Jing Yunjiao glanced at Yuan, who was being comforted by the reporters and fans, and snorted. After thinking about it, he gave Shen Tong a call. Aunt Tong, I want to trouble you with something. Record a short video. Yes, the call was short, but not long after, Shen Tong sent the video over. After Jing Yunjiao confirmed it once, he uploaded it directly. Shen Tong? What does it have to do with Shen Tong? The reporters at the side were confused. Almost at the same time, they opened their phones and looked at Jing Yunjiao's Weibo. They were immediately dumbfounded. Just a moment ago, the owner of the account name, Yun Xiao, suddenly posted a video. In the video, Shen Tong, who had officially retired from acting for many years, spoke seriously to the camera. Regarding the comments about Xiao Haiqing that suddenly appeared on the internet, I feel very sad. Back then, when the eunuchs were casting, Director Wang was very distressed because he couldn't find anyone suitable for the role of Xian Han. Coincidentally, I met Xiao Haiqing and felt that whether it was her temperament or her potential, she surprised me. So I recommended her to Director Wang. The video was short, but it was very influential. Shen Tong had retired from acting for 20 years. She was a cinnabar mole in almost everyone's heart. The roles she played back then were very beautiful. Now that they looked at her again, they realized that her appearance hadn't changed much. She just looked more mature. Chapter 899. Shen Tong did not say anything superfluous in this video. She only explained the reason for Xiao Haiqing's audition and expressed that she hoped everyone would support her. But with just a few simple words, the public opinion suddenly changed. After Shen Tong returned to China, the media also expressed that they wanted to interview her, but she rejected all of them. She may not have power or influence, but she had an unparalleled status in the entertainment industry. So many reporters tried their best to get Shen Tong to appear in public, but now Xiao Haiqing could? Little Xiao, what is your relationship with Shen Tong? Are you relatives? Suddenly, the reporters squeezed to Xiao Haiqing's side and asked. Even the way they addressed her became intimate. Xiao Haiqing was stunned. She glanced at Jing Yunjiao's direction and saw her smile. She immediately understood. No, we met by chance once. Thank you to her for introducing me to Director Wang. Otherwise, I wouldn't even have the opportunity to audition. Xiao Haiqing told the truth. Her words were quite good, letting others know that she had only asked for the opportunity to audition and not directly asked for the role of Xian Han. Not much time had passed since the reporters targeted her, but Xiao Haiqing's attitude did not change much from beginning to end. Even when she mentioned Shen Tong, she was still polite and humble. Her smile was bright and beautiful, and people couldn't help but have a good impression of her. Shen Tong was a senior in the entertainment industry and had a good relationship with many heavenly kings and queens, as well as directors. Her first appearance was for a newcomer, so no matter what, the reporters had to give her face. Yuan was indeed very popular, but there were many artists like her. They rose because of a few dramas, but it wouldn't be long before they were replaced by others. They couldn't be compared with Shen Tong. Moreover, with Shen Tong's protection and high praise from Director Wang, who knew if the tides would turn in the future? Her appearance and bearing were indeed extraordinary. Perhaps it wouldn't be long before she became someone they wanted to please. At this time, even if they didn't want to maintain a good relationship with her, their words had to be a little tactful. Little Xiao, someone said that you made Yuan wait. What's going on? Another reporter asked. Xiao Haiqing added, "It must be a misunderstanding. Today, Miss Muru and I arrived at the set after 5 o'clock. Later, because Miss Yuan had to rush for a show at night, our scenes were temporarily postponed. The reason why we changed to the original plan was that Miss Yuan's scenes were very difficult and the filming didn't go well." Jing Yunzhao pursed his lips and smiled. Xiao Haiqing was not a stupid woman with a one-track mind. The reporters came out of nowhere. It was easy to figure out who the reason was. But now that Yuan was famous, if she kept going against Yuan, she would be the one to suffer. Therefore, supporting Yuan now was the best choice. As for whether or not the scenes were more difficult, they would know when it was released. The audience's eyes were bright. In terms of difficulty, Xi and Han's scenes were the most complicated and difficult. Is it because you don't have a good relationship with Muru and Yuan that you call them so estranged? The reporter immediately found something wrong. Xiao Haiqing smiled. That's because Yuan and Muru are playing rich young ladies in the show. This is my nickname for them. The reporter was also surprised. Everyone was smart, but it was rare to see a girl with such emotional intelligence. Then can little Xiao reveal Muru and Yuan's performance in the show? The reporter continued to dig. Performance? After all, I'm a newcomer. I can only use the word look to describe it. It can be said that it's amazing, lovely, and pitiful, but the two of them and I are rivals in the show. If I praise them too much, I'm afraid that I'll be merciful in the show and director Wang will go berserk. So, sister reporter, please let me go. Chapter 900. After Xiao Haiqing finished speaking, everyone around her breathed a sigh of relief. Director Wang was afraid that she would impulsively say something that would harm others without benefiting herself, but now that he heard it, he felt that it was too rare. At such a young age, she was able to advance and retreat. She was simply a rare seedling. Even the manager, Ling Lin, stroked her rapidly beating heart and was completely relieved. When she first asked her to take care of Xiao Haiqing, she was a little worried. It was mainly because this girl was beautiful and had a bit of a gorgeous feeling. This kind of appearance could easily attract trouble. If she was not smart enough, this road would definitely not be easy to walk. But now, it seemed that she had thought too much. However, some people were happy while others were angry. Yuan, who was left out, had an extremely ugly expression. Xiao Haiqing's comments were overly giving the audience hope. If she didn't deserve it, she would definitely attract criticism. This show didn't lack beauties and was very competitive, but she couldn't refute. She could only be modest, but it was useless. This girl was stepping on her to climb up. However, no wonder the director was so good to her. It turned out that Shun Tong had introduced her. Yuan secretly gritted her teeth. She knew Shun Tong's influence in the entertainment industry, so she couldn't mess around. She was just the third female lead, and her young age was also a shackle. She had no chance to compete with her. Since that was the case, she didn't need to worry about such a small matter. Yuan breathed a sigh of relief and faced the reporters with a smile. She lifted her feet and walked to Xiao Haiqing's side. She looked at the crowd as if she was looking at a little sister and said, "I've made everyone worry. My relationship with Xiao Xiao is really good. She's still young, so I hope everyone can be more tolerant of her. Thank you." Xiao Haiqing said sincerely. Then she said, "But after all, I did bully Miss Yuan in the show. I hope that when the show is broadcast, the P's will be merciful to me." The P's was the nickname of Yuan's fans. Jing Yunzhao looked at this scene and smiled with satisfaction. At least this Yuan had some brains. However, she was probably feeling very frustrated. She originally thought that it would be impossible for Xiao Haiqing to make a name for herself, but in the blink of an eye, she had done publicity for her. She could only grit her teeth and stuff it into her stomach. This friend of yours has a very high EQ. She's quite similar to you. Both of them are able to remain calm and collected. If it were a normal person, they would have cried out for injustice or even shed tears. Hua Tianxian sighed and gave her a thumbs up. If an artist shed tears casually, they might not be liked. Especially since she didn't have any fame, people would only say that she was trying to create hype. His current attitude was just right. He was neither servile nor overbearing, and there was nothing that would easily make people unhappy. It was simply amazing. Adapting to the environment is only natural. Jing Yunjiao looked in the direction of Xiao Haiqing and smiled gently. Xiao Haiqing wasn't such a person in the beginning. She was straightforward and a little careless. She couldn't stand being wronged or wronged. If she didn't like what she used to be, she might rush up and beat someone up. However, people grew up. If she was the same as before, her stepmother wouldn't have suffered so much. With so many reporters present, it didn't take long for the misunderstanding to be completely cleared up. The next morning, the famous Iwan directly tied Xiao Haiqing to the hot search list. Ling Lin was also a smart manager. She took the opportunity to bribe a few media outlets and release some scenes of Xiao Haiqing's previous acting. In addition, there were many comments from the cast and crew. Although Xiao Haiqing's previous roles didn't have many scenes, her image was very positive and she was dressed very beautifully. Because she was very recognizable and looked exactly like whatever role she played, coupled with her good character, she attracted a large number of fans. Chapter 901. Jing Yunjiao's fan club account also received a lot of attention, but the outside world didn't know her identity. In order to keep track of Xiao Haiqing's movements, Jing Yunjiao's account had more and more fans, and it was growing crazily almost every day. Although it couldn't be compared to A-list and B-list stars like Yiwan and Muru, it was still a road to fame. Jing Yunjiao was really happy for Xiao Haiqing. Director Wang had a good impression of her. It seemed that she wouldn't have to worry about her next film. It would be difficult for her to not become popular in the future. However, at this time, the school was surrounded by another matter. The news that Zhou Meijun had died spread. Those who knew her before felt a little sorry. Although Zhou Meijun didn't get along with Jing Yunjiao, she was still good to other people who weren't competitive with her. She even tried her best to please them. Therefore, she was very popular in her class. Now that the sudden news of her murder came, many people were shocked. Fortunately, this matter didn't have anything to do with Jing Yunjiao. Otherwise, it would inevitably cause some trouble. It was just that she avoided it, but Tao Gu couldn't. After being locked up in the police station for 2 days, Tao Gu was released. However, to the students in the class, her release didn't mean that she wasn't guilty. It was just that no evidence was found. A student who might have killed someone was like a demon. No one would help her or have a good impression of her. They even felt that she was like a plague. They were afraid that she would suddenly explode and harm the people around her. Tao Ji's parents also came to the capital at this time. They even specially came to the school to explain to the dean. Jing Yunjiao also glanced at them from afar. He could only say that they were a hard-working couple, full of tears, heavy as a mountain. What a pity. After this incident, Tao Ji's whole person changed a lot. She became silent and gloomy. After all, she was a girl, but she was interrogated in various ways in the police station. The shadow in her heart couldn't be dissipated in an instant. Moreover, when she recalled the scene of Zhou Meijun lying in a pool of blood that day, she had nightmares. For the first time, he felt regret. If she hadn't pretended to be Jing Yunjiao back then, she wouldn't have gone against her. If she hadn't made things difficult for her, she wouldn't have become more and more stubborn. If she had given up her dissatisfaction and resentment towards Jing Yunjiao, she wouldn't have been given a demerit. Similarly, she wouldn't have gone out with Zhou Meijun for that 100,000 yuan. She wouldn't have become a suspect. She used to be a good student, or else she wouldn't have been able to get into a university. But now, even though she was in a university, it was no different from a prison. Especially when he saw the disappointment and worry on his parents' faces, he felt as if he had fallen into a pitch-black abyss, unable to step out. At this time, Tao Gu was extremely pitiful, but Jing Yunjiao only looked at her indifferently every time he saw her. There were thousands of choices in this world. She had missed more than one step. It wasn't as if she hadn't given her a chance. But now that she had suffered a great loss, she was finally willing to admit her mistakes. But even if she did admit her mistakes, she should pay the price for what she had done. And compared to Zhou Meijun, Tao Gu was still lucky. At least she was still alive and had a chance to work hard. She was still in a university, and her future was still in her hands. If she couldn't even bear such a small punishment, how could she be worthy of admitting her mistakes? One had to know that if she had been a little stupid and allowed Zhou Meijun to torture her, plus Tao Ji's lie, she wouldn't be here now. but she wouldn't let the man who had killed her go. She had already ordered her subordinates to follow him. At this moment, Jing Yunzhao thought of the murder knife and evidence in the space. His eyes narrowed. After class, he took out the pin from the space and walked over to Han Nan. Chapter 902. When Jing Yunzhao walked over to Han Nan, there weren't many people in the class. His attitude was polite as he placed the pin on the table. When Han Nan saw Jing Yunzhao walk over, he couldn't help but feel excited. But when he saw the pin, he froze. What's the meaning of this? I'm sorry. I was going to return the pin to you when it was in the box, but I didn't know why I left it behind. I just found out about it, so. Jing Yunzhao said apologetically. Leaving the pin for so long was bound to cause a misunderstanding, right? You wanted to return it to me? Han Nan didn't believe it. The box was empty at the time. Jing Yunzhao clearly accepted his gift. I'm sorry, but I didn't use the pin. If you can't return it because of my mistake, I can still give you the money. Jing Yunzhao continued. Han Nan was a little flustered. I thought, Jing Yunzhao, can you accept the gift? If there's anything I've done wrong, I can change it. He originally thought that the reason she kept the pin and gave the box to him was because it was a token of love. Now that he had carefully put the box away, he was very happy when he thought that the pin in the box was in her hands. I'm returning it to you. But class rep, I hope you won't give me a gift next time. I don't like to take other people's things. Jing Yunzhao frowned and said coldly. After he finished speaking, he turned around and walked away. Han Nan panicked and immediately tried to grab Jing Yunzhao's arm. Feeling someone touch him, Jing Yunzhao almost immediately pulled his hand away. You, Jing Yunzhao, I like you. Please be my girlfriend. Han Nan suddenly opened his mouth. His voice was very loud. Even though there weren't many people in the class, everyone heard him clearly. After a few seconds of silence, everyone began to cheer. In their eyes, Jing Yunzhao and Han Nan were a good match. The former was the top student in class and the school beauty. Although Han Nan wasn't as good, he was at least the class rep. Rather than let someone else pluck Jing Yunzhao's flower, they'd rather see her and the class rep become a couple. A perfect match. Jing Yunzhao, just say yes. Our class leader is so nice. She must be super warm to you. Class rep, you're not being a good friend. You have to give her flowers when you're confessing. Together. Everyone in the class was talking at once, causing a headache. Jing Yunzhao coldly glanced at Han Nan. Sorry, I have a boyfriend. After Jing Yunzhao finished speaking, the class suddenly fell silent. Han Nan's face paled. Who? Han Nan asked. He's not from this school, and I don't think I need to introduce him to you. Class monitor, thank you for your kindness, but it's impossible between us. After saying that, Jing Yunzhao went back to her seat. Before she sat down, she said to the others, I hope you don't make fun of me and others. My boyfriend is very jealous. He won't be happy if he finds out. When he said this, everyone in the class was surprised. They had thought that Jing Yunzhao was a creature that was cut off from the rest of the world and would never have a boyfriend. Suddenly, they were very curious. Han Nan's expression was awkward. He sat down with the fountain pen in his hand, but he didn't believe Jing Yunzhao's words. She probably didn't like him, so she deliberately made up an excuse. What wasn't good about him? His grades weren't as good as hers, but they weren't bad either. His looks weren't bad, and he wasn't from a rich family, but he was still wealthy. He secretly glanced at Jing Yunzhao, and his eyes flashed with determination. He wouldn't give up so easily. Every time he thought of Jing Yunzhao, he felt like he was going crazy. If he couldn't have her, he would never be happy. Chapter 903. Due to the ruckus, the class was incomparably quiet. However, Jing Yunzhao's temper wasn't to be trifled with, so no one would purposely bring up this matter to provoke her. Even though no one said anything on the surface, the fact that Han Nan had feelings for her was still known by the whole class. Jing Yunzhao continued to do things her own way. Apart from classes, she was rarely seen. She was almost the most mysterious person in the school. However, the more mysterious she was, the more curious others became. Every time Jing Yunzhao appeared, more and more male students would cast eager looks at her. As for Jing Yunzhao, Other than going to Celestial Crane Hall once more, she and Qin Shui were busy with the medical company's matters. The old guys from Crane Hall had been waiting for her for a long time. Unfortunately, she didn't like being controlled by others. Even when she showed up, it didn't satisfy their curiosity. Instead, it made them even more anxious. A few of them even wanted to ask her for advice in private. However, they were just itching to do it. They weren't mentally prepared. She wasn't petty. She was just arrogant. If these old doctors thought she was too young and wanted to know her skills, she wouldn't be so stupid as to teach them one by one. However, if they were willing to ask for advice and were polite, it wouldn't be a big deal. After all, they were medical practitioners. As long as it wasn't a secret technique unique to their ancestors, it would be a good thing for them to spread her knowledge. Therefore, she was waiting. She was waiting for those old guys to be humble enough to learn from each other. As for the pharmaceutical company, it was going strong. It was different with the military backing. It was much smoother than the rise of Yuling wine. When it first appeared, many in the same industry had already made way for it. As soon as Yunling painkiller was released, it became famous. Many hospitals came to place orders for it. As a result, the other common medicines sold very well. However, since it was just the beginning, the investment wasn't small. It would take a while for the profits to come in. Moreover, the factory had just started operation. Even if the scale wasn't small, they couldn't eat too much in one go. The large batch of painkillers on the military side was enough to keep them busy. There was definitely a limit to the amount of painkillers they could provide to the hospitals. Almost all the major hospitals in Jindo City had been contacted, including the hospital run by the Li family that Professor Imo had mentioned. He felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. After all, whether it was Professor Imo, Elder Su, or Granny Yufu of the Immortal Crane Hall, they all disliked the Li family's hospital very much. With this layer of relationship, Jing Yunjiao naturally would not let the Li family's Mingi hospital get too many painkillers. In fact, he almost made Qin Shui exclude the Li family's hospital. The company was hers, so she had the right to be willful. Although Qin Shui did not understand why Jing Yunjiao did not stick close to these big hospitals and instead offended them, she was the boss. Of course, she had to listen to what she said. More than a month passed in the blink of an eye. This banquet was actually meant to be a charity event. Most of the attendees were celebrities, tycoons, and all kinds of people. The reason why this banquet was held was to improve the relationship between the officials and the tycoons, and also to get some sponsorship or donations. Otherwise, Su Yuantech would not have come forward. The government wanted profits, while the rich wanted fame. They were all linked together. The weather at the end of December was already a little cold. There was not much time left before the winter break. Jing Yunjiao took a leave of absence and specially attended. The clothes she was going to wear for the banquet were custom-made more than a month ago. The hotel was warm enough, so the clothes didn't seem to be able to keep her warm. Jing Yunjiao had her internal energy to protect her body, so she was able to adapt to it. Chapter 904. At night, Jing Yunjiao changed her clothes at Elder Su's place. Qin Shui personally drove over to pick her up. This set of clothes leaned towards the Chinese style. When Jing Yunjiao wore it, it gave off a classical charm, yet it also carried a bit of beauty and fashion. The embroidered ink flowers on the top of the clothes were especially beautiful, complementing her entire person to be even more beautiful and otherworldly. She was as beautiful as Celadone, exuding a delicate charm. Elder Su looked at Jing Yunjiao's outfit and had a look of praise on his face. When he thought about how she was going to meet his eldest son, he felt even more complicated. "Chief Jing, please." Qin Shui's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise, but he was still polite and respectful. Jing Yunjiao was very noble. Her whole body exuded a kind of domineering aura that made people unable to look at her directly. It was very convincing. Jing Yunjiao got into the car. When she thought of Shanxi, her eyes turned cold. Qin Shui, who was sitting next to her, inexplicably shivered and his whole body trembled. He felt that Chief Jing was not going to attend the charity banquet. It was more like she was going to cause trouble. But how was that possible? Chief Jing was such an obedient little girl. How could she be so scary? It must be her temperament that made him feel wrongly. Not long after, Jing Yunjiao arrived at the venue. There were also reporters at the entrance of the hotel, but they were all well-behaved. They looked completely different from the aggressive reporters she saw in the past. Even if they were reporters, there were many types. Qin Shui took out the invitation and walked in with Jing Yunjiao. Now, more than 90% of Yunling Medicine shares were in Jing Yunjiao's hands. The remaining 5% was in the hands of the military. In addition, Qin Shui was given 1%. It didn't seem like much, but Yunling Medicine had great potential in the future. Qin Shui was only in charge of the business and didn't have any other investments. This amount was considered money given by Jing Yunjiao in addition to her salary. Inside the hotel, it was a dazzling sight. People walked in along the red carpet. Qin Shui wasn't a newcomer. He had appeared in such occasions many times before, so he was very familiar with them. Soon, he got along well with the people. Although Jing Yunjiao came in with him, he had no intention of accompanying him to exchange greetings with others. He found a place to sit down and quietly waited for Su Yuantek to appear. There was a big screen above, playing some engineering plans. When the party officially began, someone would explain it, and then it would be time for the businessmen below to prepare to spend money. However, this kind of formal occasion was not a place for children to play house. There were almost no people of her age. These businessmen either brought their secretaries or wives. Jing Yunjiao was a little eye-catching. Mayor Su is here. Not long after, Jing Yunjiao heard someone say. Jing Yunjiao immediately turned to look at him. His gaze deepened. As expected, Shunshi was here. Su Yuantek was said to be 47 or 48 years old this year, but he looked very charming. His nose was high, and there were not many wrinkles on his face. His eye sockets were deep, and his eyebrows were sharp. His facial features were very regular. He looked like he could even act in a movie. From his appearance, one could see some of Su Lao's shadow. Beside him was the noblewoman Shan Shi. She was wearing a slightly conservative dress and a pair of jade bracelets. Her long hair was tied up, and she had a kind face. She smiled without showing her teeth. Holding Su Yuantek's arm, she walked leisurely, full of the style of a big family. Jing Yunjiao watched quietly. She accompanied Su Yuantek to exchange greetings with others. She held a glass of champagne in her hand. She raised it gently and smiled slightly. Many people nodded and bowed to her. As the mayor, he had to take care of everything. There was still a long time before the party. Jing Yunjiao was not in a hurry. He waited leisurely. Chapter 905. Judging from her appearance, Shunshi was a woman worthy of Su Yuantek. She was beautiful and somewhat similar to Shun Tong. Her gestures were very polite. Although she didn't come from a high family, she had a strong aura. She had been a rich lady for many years, so she naturally exuded an aura that made people admire her. "You're Chairman Qin? Nice to meet you." Su Yuantek met Qin Shui. He took the other party's business card and took the initiative to greet him. The rise of Yunling Medicine was very sudden. He had sent people to investigate, but they only found the general manager of Yunling Medicine, Qin Shui. As for the real person in charge, he was listed as a protected target by the military. Before the medical company was completed, he didn't have the authority to look at it. This kind of situation was rare, so he was a little surprised. But after all, it was a newly established medical company, so he didn't focus all of his attention on it. "Mayor Su, madam, I'd like to propose a toast to you. I hope you can take care of me in the future." Qin Shui didn't hold back. He was neither servile nor overbearing when dealing with people and matters. "You're too polite, Chairman Qin. Your Yunling Medicine is quite mysterious. I've always wanted to meet the person in charge, but the military advised me not to interfere for the time being. This made me curious." Su Yuantek laughed dryly. His eyes flashed, and it was difficult to tell whether he was happy or angry. "Didn't you see her now? Our chairman specially asked for leave to come here today. She heard that her idol is you, so she specially came to see you." Qin Shui smiled. He knew Jing Yunjiao's purpose. "Oh, your chairman is also here?" Su Yuantek was indeed surprised. He thought that this mysterious chairman wasn't going to show up at all. Otherwise, he wouldn't have asked the military to keep it a secret. But what did he mean by asking for leave? Could it be that this person was still working somewhere else? Qin Shui smiled, but his expression looked a little strange. He raised his hand and pointed in Jing Yunjiao's direction. Su Yuantek looked over and saw a particularly beautiful back. It's a woman. Su Yuantek was surprised for a moment, but a very strange feeling suddenly emerged in his heart. He felt that this moment was very important. Shanxi, you can walk around by yourself first, Su Yuantek said and walked over. Shanxi glanced at her and didn't care. After all, although the other party was a woman, Su Yuantek wasn't a lecherous person. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been alone for so many years. She immediately smiled at Qin Shui and said a few words. She then walked in the direction of her acquaintances. At this time, the closer Su Yuantek got, the more nervous he felt. This had never happened in all these years. Feeling someone approaching from behind, Jing Yunjiao put down his wine glass and turned around. Suddenly, Su Yuantek stopped in his tracks and froze on the spot. In the next second, he took a step forward and immediately stood in front of Jing Yunjiao. He grabbed her arm with both hands and said, Xianlan? Mayor Su, hello. My name is Jing Yunjiao. Su Yuantek's eyes went from joy to coldness. He instantly calmed down and extended his hand. Who are you? Mayor Su. I've already told you. Jing Yunjiao smiled. Su Yuantek's eyes darkened. This girl wasn't his sister, but she looked very much like her. But why would someone who looked so similar suddenly appear in front of him? It seemed to be intentional. Could it be that this was arranged by his opponent? But she was the person in charge of Yunling Pharmaceuticals and was protected by the military. She should have nothing to do with his opponent. Chairman Jing, nice to meet you. His voice was almost squeezed out from his throat. Jing Yunjiao smiled and shook the hand he extended to her. Chapter 906. Jing Yunjiao's hand was so cold that it chilled people's hearts. Su Yuantek looked at the face that resembled his sister's and felt an inexplicable heartache. His sister, Su Xianlan, was the most important woman in the world to him. He had seen many people who resembled his sister, but none of them were as similar as the one in front of him. In terms of appearance, they were 60 to 70% similar. The only difference was their temperament. Xianlan, like her name, was like a secluded orchid with an amiable temperament. The girl in front of him was very cold. Even though she was smiling gently, he could still feel the coldness in her bottomless eyes. It was an innate coldness. He had always been very good at judging people. He was almost certain at first glance that although this girl looked young, she was definitely not a simple person. Mayor Su, you seem to be very excited just now. I look like your sister, right? Jing Yunjiao said. This Su Yuantek seemed to be somewhat amiable. He probably had a lot of suspicions about her purpose in his heart, but in front of this face, he lost his sense of propriety. Sure enough, as Su Xingyuan and Li Xiaoyun said, he loved his sister as much as his life. Su Xianlan was really a happy woman. How do you know? It seems that Chairman Jing knows me very well. Su Yuantek secretly clenched his hands. Of course, Uncle Xingwen and I often talk about you. Jing Yunjiao didn't hide it at this time. Hearing this, Su Yuantek tensed up. He looked at her in surprise. You? Who are you? Mayor Su, you seem to be a bit too nervous. I'm not a bad person who has ulterior motives towards you. I'm just curious about the Su family. Let's put it this way. I'm from Huaning County. I've known Uncle Xingyuan for 3 years. Jing Yunjiao said. Then you also know Su Jingji? Su Yuantek directly asked again. That's right. Elder Su can be considered as half of my pharmacist mentor. Jing Yunjiao answered obediently. This time, Su Yuantek was even more surprised. He knew his father's temper very well. Back then, because he had secretly helped Xianlan leave the capital and caused Xianlan's accident, the old man had hated him and his second brother for many years. For many years, he had ignored them and not only targeted him, but also the old man's own grandson. Their father loved Xianlan the most. The three of them had all learned how to make medicine at first, but in the end, the one who really inherited the Su family's ability to make medicine was the younger sisters. However, after her accident, their father had said that even if the Su family's ability to make medicine was completely gone, he would never pass it on to them. He thought that in the end, Su Xingyuan would be the successor of the Su family, but he didn't expect that a girl who looked so much like Xianlan would come. But at this moment, he did heave a sigh of relief. Is this your relationship with the old master? You were born in Huaning County. Miss Jing, I don't know if I can ask one more question. Who are your parents? Jing Yunjiao secretly raised his eyebrows. Sure enough, Su Yuantek still wanted to ask. My parents are unknown. After Jing Yunjiao said this, he immediately said, but Mayor Su, I'm afraid you'll be disappointed. Elder Su also asked this question, but the answer he got was no. Uncle Xingyuan also said that the man with your younger sister never admitted that he had a daughter. So, is that so? Su Yuantek just said this sentence softly. There was a saying called self-deception. Maybe the old man was just numbing himself. After all, since this girl said that her parents were unknown, it meant that she didn't live with her mother. Then, the possibility of Xianlan's death was even higher. Of course, his father was unwilling to admit it. Chapter 907. Su Yuantek's gaze softened as he looked at Jing Yunjiao. He couldn't help but feel a little emotional. Regarding this matter, he was more realistic than the old man. It was true that he doted on his younger sister, but with the Su family's current capabilities, if they couldn't find a person after spending so many years, there was an 80% to 90% chance that the person was no longer in this world. Because of Li Tianyi, he had never considered that his younger sister would have such a big daughter, but if Jing Yunjiao was really his niece, he would still feel more at ease. At least his younger sister would no longer be without a successor. Miss Jing, would you be willing to cooperate with us for a test? Su Yuantek asked politely. After all, he still couldn't confirm the identity of the girl in front of him. Even though he felt a sense of familiarity from her, he couldn't be too anxious. Jing Yunjiao had already expected this, so she didn't refuse and nodded. Mayor Su, I hope you won't be too disappointed when the time comes, Jing Yunjiao said. That won't happen. Su Yuantek smiled and took a sip to calm himself down. He then asked, Miss Jing is young and promising. You founded Yunling Medicine at such a young age. That's really impressive, especially with the support of the military. It's really rare. However, the Su family only cares about making medicine. They don't develop any medical prescriptions. Where did your company's medicine come from? Mayor Su, don't worry. There won't be any problems with those medicines. Other than knowing how to make medicine, I also know some medical skills. The prescriptions were all taught to me by my master. Master? Su Yuantek was surprised. It seemed that this girl was quite lucky. His father was already an outstanding pharmacist. He was very picky when it came to accepting disciples. He would never teach someone who wasn't talented. Moreover, he always required those who learned how to make medicine to be focused. For example, when he wanted to enter the political world, his grandfather never taught him any pharmaceutical theories. Jing Yunjiao actually learned medicine from someone else while he was learning medicine from the old man. It was really strange. Not only that, he was now the owner of Yunling Medicine. Your medical company has a bright future. If you have any problems in the future, you can contact me. Oh right, my father shouldn't be in Huaning County now, right? Su Yuantek asked again. This was also what he had just guessed. Jing Yunjiao knew the old man, so there was no way she wouldn't come to this business dinner without informing him. Recently, the old man's situation had been a bit strange, especially when he was on the phone with Su Xingyuan. He always felt that something was wrong. Now that he saw Jing Yunjiao, he understood what was going on. That's right, Jing Yunjiao said honestly. As expected, Su Yuantek laughed dryly. You're studying at a university? You're the student who had a relationship with Professor Mo, right? Yes. Jing Yunjiao nodded again. Su Yuantek sighed. He knew it would be like this. Su Xingyuan's bad temper wasn't very good. He only listened to the old man and never cared about outsiders. However, he called Su Yu for no reason and reprimanded him. He even said that Su Yu had offended Professor Mo, and the old man weren't friends at all, so it was impossible for him to stand up for him. Now that he thought about it, the most important reason should be Professor Mo's student, Jing Yunjiao. However, thinking of this, Su Yuantek's mood improved a lot. The old man had been too stubborn these years. Other than Su Xingyuan, there was no one else around him. Now that a little girl like Jing Yunjiao had appeared, it was a good thing. especially since this girl looked like Xianlan, and she might be the descendant of the Su family. Chapter 908. After Su Yuantek suppressed the excitement in his heart, he took a deep look at Jing Yunzhao and then turned to other places. There were many people here, so he couldn't just focus on chatting with Jing Yunzhao. Jing Yunzhao's purpose of coming here was only half achieved. After Su Yuantek left, he walked towards Shan Shi. Mrs. Su, your skin is so well maintained. The Su family has a 1,000-year-old tradition of making medicine. Is there any secret formula? Look, you're obviously the same age, but you look like a little girl in her 20s. I'm embarrassed to stand next to you. Several women stood together, and their laughter suddenly came. Shun Shi was surrounded in the middle of the crowd. The other women looked at her enviously, and words of praise were incessant. No, I am already so old. How can I compare with a little girl? Shun Shi took a sip of red wine and smiled slightly. With this smile, the women's eyes were filled with amazement. Time was like a curse to women like them. Their husbands were not ordinary people. As long as they called out to them, countless wild bees and butterflies would pounce on them, squeezing them to the point that they had no status to speak of. This was especially true for women of the same age as Shun Shi. Most of their husbands had other partners, and even their husbands would not speak sweet words or be gentle with them anymore. However, Shun Shi seemed to have been forgotten by time. She was elegant and generous. Su Yuantek was not only rich and powerful, but also very self-disciplined. He was famous for being a good man. Shun Shi's good life was envied by most people. Mrs. Su, you and Mayor Su are a model couple. Your son is also a student of a famous university. Speaking of which, Shun Tong, who was popular in half of the world, is your sister. She is not as lucky as you. By the way, I have a cousin who is a loyal fan of Shin Tong. Why don't you introduce them to each other someday? Maybe they can make a good marriage happen. However, these words made Shun Shi's face stiffen, but it disappeared in a flash. Really? That's such a coincidence. Let's do it another day then. But my sister is arrogant. She may not be able to put down her pride. Hey, I'll try my best to persuade her, okay? Shun Shi said with a smile. As soon as he said that, the other party felt a little uncomfortable. Back then, Shun Tong was highly praised by everyone. But in the end, didn't she run abroad to avoid the limelight? She was just an actress. Did she have the right to be arrogant? If Shin Tong was half as considerate and polite as Shun Shi, she wouldn't have run her own beauty salon in public, right? Mrs. Su, it doesn't seem right to speak ill of others behind their backs, does it? At this moment, a cold voice suddenly came from behind. Everyone was stunned. They turned around and saw a young girl with a faint smile on her face. She was staring at Shun Shi. Her eyes were unfathomable and sent chills down everyone's spine. When Shun Shi saw this, her hand trembled and the red wine spilled out. She hurriedly wiped it. You are? He asked through gritted teeth. What was Jing Yunzhao doing here? Mrs. Su, don't you know me? I'm Jing Yunzhao. Didn't you ask Shan Tong to send a bottle of wine for me to taste? Jing Yunzhao said matter-of-factly. After that, he glanced at the red wine spilled by Shun Shi and chuckled. Mrs. Su, are you so surprised to see me? So it's Miss Jing. I'm not surprised. I just didn't expect. Shun Shi stood up and spoke in a friendly manner like an elder. I heard from Shan Tong that you are a student of a university. How come you have time to come here today? But if I had known that you were interested in this business party, I would have asked someone to send you an invitation. Then you wouldn't have had to trouble others. Chapter 909. Shun Shi's tone was normal, as if she really cared about Jing Yunzhao. The eyes of the people next to her lit up. Mrs. Su, this is she? I don't know how to introduce her. You know, my father-in-law has been recuperating in the countryside, thanks to this child's care. Shun Shi smiled and said, Miss Jing, since you're here, just walk around. But the banquet will end later. When you go back, the school will be under curfew, right? How about this? I'll get you a room later. By the way, take this card and go shopping tomorrow. A little girl like you will definitely like the things on this street. At this moment, she only hoped that Jing Yunzhao would be thin-skinned and leave immediately after hearing this. If her husband saw her, there would definitely be a big problem. But after she said this, the people next to her turned from joy to disappointment. This little girl who suddenly appeared was extremely beautiful and wore expensive clothes. They thought that she was a relative of the Su family. They didn't expect that she was just a little girl from the countryside. Looking at her appearance, she just appeared to ask Shi for money. Hey, I feel that this Miss Jing looks familiar. At this time, someone said suspiciously, she looks a bit like my sister-in-law, so my father-in-law takes care of her. Shi quickly explained. After saying this, Shi took out the bank card from her handbag and stuffed it in Jing Yunjiao's hand. You child, why are you being so polite with me? Take it. Jing Yunjiao snorted and smiled contemptuously. Mrs. Su, are you trying to drive me away? Jing Yunjiao sneered. What you mean? I don't understand. Shi's smile stiffened. As everyone knows, Mayor Su loves his sister. I look so much like her, so I should meet Mayor Su to relieve his yearning for his sister, right? Jing Yunjiao said again. Shi's face began to turn ugly. Miss Jing, our Su family didn't do anything wrong to you. Everyone knows that Xianlan is my husband's Achilles heel. After so many years, he finally got over the past. I hope you won't appear in front of him and make him sad. Take it as I, Shi, beg you. Shi said righteously. When the people around them heard this, they couldn't help but think of some family matters related to the Su family. The two sons of the Su family had a smooth career, but the daughter was very pitiful. She went missing early, and outsiders said that she had died. Even her body was not found. This matter was taboo in the Su family. Miss Jing, Mayor Su is a busy man. Why do you insist on seeing him? Mrs. Su is polite to you, but don't push your luck just because she has a good temper. Someone immediately began to help. Don't say that, everyone. This is just a small matter. Shi immediately said. This matter came so suddenly that she was a little unprepared. However, no matter what, she couldn't make a big deal out of it. Otherwise, once it attracted others' attention, her husband would definitely know. Mrs. Su, you're too easy to bully. She's not your relative. Why do you have to give her money and be so humble? The noblewoman who helped to help looked dissatisfied. They didn't have any other skills, but they were still good at dealing with relatives who liked to take advantage of others. Jing Yunjiao shook the glass in his hand. His eyes were cold, and the smile on his lips was a little cruel and disdainful. After glancing at the woman who helped to help, he suddenly raised his hand and poured the liquid in the glass directly at the woman. What are you doing? Chapter 9-10. The woman was shocked and quickly stepped back. She shouted, but her reaction was too slow. Her clothes were already stained with red marks, and she was furious. But just as she was about to get angry, she suddenly grabbed the woman and said, Mrs. Wang, I'll take you to the bathroom to wash up. You can calm down, Mrs. Su. The woman couldn't believe it. She was a famous person, but she was bullied by a girl. She actually asked her to endure it? Why? Mrs. Su has a lot of dogs around her. If you want to be favored, you can't bark. You can't even see through your master's thoughts, and you still want to stand up for her? Jing Yunjiao said coldly. Her words immediately infuriated the women around her. What Jing Yunjiao wanted was for them to get angry. The angrier they were, the more nervous Shi was. Before, Jing Yunjiao didn't understand why Shi was so anxious to target her, but this long time was enough for her to think about it. She didn't want her to be too close to the Su family. Maybe it was because her face made her think that she was Su Yuantek's daughter, so she didn't want her to meet Su Yuantek. Just like now, the angrier these women were, the worse her face looked. Everyone, she is still a child. Mrs. Su, this is not a place for children to play house. Her words are so unpleasant. Anyway, I can't stand it. I want to know who brought her here. Mrs. Wang said angrily. Her clothes were expensive, and now they were stained with red wine. Even if the wine stains were washed away, she wouldn't have the face to wear them in the future. She was very angry at this time. She had attacked Jing Yunjiao several times, but she didn't know why she was so lucky. She had arranged for someone to arrange for her to be charged with murder. But who knew that so many policemen couldn't find her, and she even lost the murder weapon. In the past month, she had thought of a way, but the people she sent to follow her had all lost her. She was usually in school, so it was hard to find her. Now, she had not expected her to find her here. Her attitude was even stranger. Could it be that she knew everything she had done in secret? But that's impossible. She didn't leave any evidence behind. Mrs. Wang, let me apologize to you on her behalf. No need. The moment Shi opened her mouth, Jing Yunzhao cut her off and casually said, Mrs. Su, you don't have to pretend to be a good person in vain. When I came over just now, I personally heard you say that my Annie Tong is arrogant. I can't accept someone like you who is two-faced apologizing for me. You. She gritted her teeth, her face tense. If it weren't for the fact that she was used to it after so many years, she really wanted to strangle her to death. Jing Yunzhao couldn't help but gasp in surprise. This Shi's ability to endure was indeed top-notch. Even after her continuous provocations, she still didn't reveal a single bit of her true colors. This woman's ability to conceal herself was truly unfathomable. However, since she was here, she didn't intend to let her go in the future. No matter how deep she hid, she would dig out her nature little by little. You really have no manners. A girl from a small place doesn't know any manners at all. You're even a student of a university. It's ridiculous that you can't study properly and come to a place where you don't belong to make a fool of yourself. At such a young age, you know how to use your face to find men. What will happen in the future? Do you think that just because you look a little like Su Xianlan, you can make Mayor Su look at you? Dream on. Do you think Mrs. Su is invisible? Mrs. Su, you have to be careful. You should be careful of this little vixen. Ask the security to drive her out immediately. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.